Hey, are you ever going to start this podcast you've been talking about for like forever?
Do you think that anyone will actually want to listen to something like this?
What is your plan for an introduction?
Are you sure you want to talk about these topics? People usually disagree.
3 hours? Are you crazy?
Do you think you're some kind of expert or something?
Are you planning to have an intro song?
What if a bunch of people get really mad and hate you over this?
Do you even know how to make a podcast?
Are you just doing this because you like to argue with people?
Don't let this be just one more thing that you talk about doing, but never actually do.
Wouldn't it be better to do just one episode for each topic?
Stop trying to change people's opinions. Just live your own life.
Dude, people are never going to agree. Just let it go.
Is this going to be a long intro? Because if it is, I'm bored already.
Hey, so what's the deal with people who are crossing the street and just taking their time? It seems like when you're approaching rather quickly, they're in some kind of hurry to get across the street. But once they realize that you are stopping for them, now all of a sudden they have all the time in the world. Is this just me? Don't they seem to start moving even slower when they see somebody in a car that's waiting for them to cross? Maybe it should just be legal to run them over, especially when they look at you like you're the idiot. They're the ones in the street, an area that was specifically designed for motor vehicles. Yes, motor vehicles, not bicycles. But don't even get me started on that one. So we are in our motor vehicles trying to drive down the street, which again was designed for our vehicles, and this guy who was on foot thinks we are supposed to wait for an hour while he takes his time crossing the street? Ridiculous. This week my guest is Amie Hamilton. If you listened to last week's episode, you have already heard my conversation with her husband Rob, and therefore already have some idea about their family and how they originally became connected with my family. Although this is somewhat of a part two, it is still completely different because, as anyone who is married knows, spouses are usually quite different from each other. This is what makes life fun, right? Even though this is true in the case of Rob and Amie, they still complement each other very well. As you heard last week, Rob is quite the funny man. Amie, though more meek than Rob, is quite funny herself. She is also raising 5 children, working outside the home, and leading worship at her local church. I got to discuss the idea of worship with someone on the inside, something I have been hoping to do for quite some time now, so that was awesome. We also discuss oodles of other things, like Blur, No Doubt, Columbia House and BMG, the Friends soundtrack, Smelly Cat, the Saint soundtrack, the Batman Forever soundtrack, Spotify, Hozier, Imagine Dragons, Bastille, Hadestown, Hamilton, the play Not My Guest, musical theater, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Drum Corps, the Bluecoats, the Cavaliers, the Beatles, Tool, A Perfect Circle, the Dave Matthews Band, AnnenMayKantereit, I'm certain I'm saying that properly, Panic at the Disco, Flora Cash, 21 Pilots, Big Government, Book Banning, Preferred Pronouns, Gaslighting, Male and Female Roles, Dress Codes, Gay Marriage, The Cage Stage, Boys and Dresses, Gender Privilege, Abortion, Unwanted Pregnancies, Worship Leading, Worship Postures, and Distracting Worship. And also, in a weird coincidence, there are no coincidences! At the release of this episode, Amie's birthday just happened to be yesterday, March 12th. So if you see her, make sure you tell her happy birthday. Enjoy the conversation. All right, so how's it going? What's your
it's going.
Yeah. What's your life look like these days? You're kind of day to day.
I have a job now.
You do? Okay.
I do. It's been 20 years, 19, 20 years, something like that. So, Josie is in first grade now, and it's just been, we thought I was going to do it when Ben got into kindergarten and things like that. We're like, okay, our last kid has, gotten into school and we'll changing new page, right. And then we got pregnant with Ben. We got pregnant with Josie. Yeah. He was in kindergarten and life just restarted, Okay.
Oh yeah. I know all about that.
And so, so now Josie is first grade and Rob had a job transition and it was like, it just was the right time for me to start looking. Okay. And I am now watching, I am a preschool 3 aide in the classroom, like at a little private school. Oh, fun. And there's like 12 kids and I swore I would never do childcare Like,
Yeah. Other than your own kids, you get enough of that at
I
home.
I love my kids. I don't love other people's kids.
Right. Exactly.
But every time I say I'm not going to do something, God's like, yeah, let's work on that.
Yep. That's the way he works. Exactly.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not moving to Texas. He's like, yes, you are.
Yeah. There you go. So is that like a full-time job? How many hours a week is that?
Okay. And the reason why it was like, it's perfect. So I knew that I needed something that ended by about 2 or 3 o'clock because I needed to pick up kids afterwards. And weekdays could not be weekends. I have no weekends free.
Right.
And so this job is Monday through Thursday, 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
Oh, perfect.
And that's it. I know. Okay. So I have Fridays free and everything.
Okay.
Which was just a bonus.
Yeah. And that's almost full time. That's what, about 30 hours a week?
I think it's 25.
25?
So,
okay.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay. And then are you still pretty active? What you see, you lead worship still at, your church? Or, okay.
I have my shirt. I got this from a friend. Just, you can't scare me. I'm a worship leader.
That's awesome.
And she bought that for me. I was like, I can't ever wear that anywhere.
Yeah.
That's not.
But you can wear it on a podcast. That's only audio.
I was like, I found, and that was, God's like, don't say never.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, when we get into this kind of spiritual discussion, I want to kind of pick your brain on some of that stuff too, because you're the you're the first person I've ever had that was a worship leader. There was another guy.
Cool.
I was trying to get on, and he kind of chickened out at the last minute. He was kind of like, I don't know. They always say the same thing, and it scares a lot of people away. They're like, wait, it's 3 hours? And I'm like, yeah, it's 3. Then they always say, I don't think I have enough to talk about for 3 hours. But like 80% of the people that have done this say that. And then when we do it, I'm like, all right, well, that's about it. And they're like, what? It's been 3 hours? Are you kidding me? And I'm like, actually, it's been 3.5. They're like, what? So people don't realize. They think it's going to be like this awkward thing where we're just sitting here staring at each other like, I don't know what to say to you. I have nothing to say. It's never been like that ever. So even when I've had like kind of quiet people on before at first, after like the last 20 minutes, they're just like, bup, 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 it's just like, okay, cool.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, coolio. All right. Well, I jump into music first. That's cool. Nice and easy kind of. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Most people like music. If they don't, obviously that's a sign of a serious mental disorder.
Exactly.
So I like to ask kind of like, what's your earliest memory of music? Like the first time you remember thinking, oh, that's awesome. That's a cool song. That's a cool artist. I got to get that. It's great.
Yeah. It's funny because really this is when I saw it, I was like, that's actually not an easy topic for me to talk about. Not because it's like difficult songs or difficult memories or anything like that, but like really stopping to think back on how music has affected me. It's so varied. Okay. And music didn't speak to me for a long time. And I've always had it in my life. My mom was always singing around the house, and she was a preschool teacher, and so we had Raffi and Peter, Paul, and Mary, and all of that in my life. I remember going to like Raffi concerts, right? But it was never. It was fun songs. It's camp songs, that kind of thing. Right, but it's not like, oh man, that speaks to my soul.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. His head was made of pizza. What's that song? The moon was made of cheese or whatever. That's some deep stuff right really there. Deep right there. Yeah. It's just really pierces your inner soul.
And my mom's music was always what was on the radio, and that's always what we listened to. And it was, Neil Diamond and like a little bit of Blondie and
nice,
just kind of that genre.
Okay.
And
so you didn't really grow up in a Christian.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, and my mom was very open to, go discover yourself.
Gotcha.
She was not a hippie though.
Okay.
Grew up in that era, but she was not a hippie.
Okay.
But she was very much, go find your way kind of person.
Right.
And so, but none of that music, like I remember listening to the radio, it was like KNJO, and you have like the Take My Breath Away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
One hit wonders. This is horrible.
Oh, really? You didn't like that, huh?
No, I did not.
How about today? Do you still hate that kind of stuff?
No, not a fan.
Not
and
a fan
that
of
is like
80s
Rob's
music. He loves the 80s music.
Some of those are Rob's anthems, and I cannot. He loves Jackson 5. He loves it just has fond memories. And I just remember going, I don't like this.
Yeah. But you're a little younger than him, right?
I am not. I'm like a year and a half.
Okay. So
he had older siblings.
Right.
And I was the oldest in my home. I have older siblings, but they didn't live with me.
Okay. Because you were born what year now? So
84.
84. Okay. So you weren't really, by the time you were kind of prime age, 9, 10, start enjoying it, you're in the 90s at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. And, the radio was still playing 80s, and I just was not a fan. It did not.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So, by the time junior high, started meeting people who had their own, taste in music and kind of what they enjoyed. And I really just kind of started taking on that persona. I consider myself as non-biblical or scriptural as it is. Like if I was an element, I would be water, and I just kind of flow with other people.
Okay.
And so what other people like, I'm like, yeah, sure, I like that too. Great.
Right.
And so,
except
I remember
80s.
Rocking out. Yeah, except for 80s. Because that was my mom's stuff.
Gotcha.
That was not my stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember like in junior high rocking out to like Blur's, like, song number 2 and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that song still holds up, I think.
Right? Seriously.
Yeah. Whenever that comes on, it's like, yes.
I know. So that was, and that was really just, it was other people's music that I was like, yeah, this is cool music. Awesome. Okay. I think the first CD I ever got was like No Doubt.
Okay. Which one? Tragic Kingdom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a gift from my family. And it wasn't exactly because I was like, I love this, but they kind of went to the music store and was like, we need something for a teenage girl. And they were like, here, buy this.
It's all the rage.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So, very cool.
But, I was trying to think about what what are the songs that still go through my head now from when I was younger. And the things that I remember, so remember when it was, I think, cookbooks, magazines, and like cassette tapes or something. You could send in a penny. They'd send you 20 of them. And
like Columbia House or BMG. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I ended up with cassettes just from that thing. I was 13. I had no credit card.
Right. Isn't it amazing?
Tracking me down.
Yeah. All you had to do back then, and I did that a few times, you just put your name and your address. I'm like, they asked for no credit card. Yeah, nothing. And it's then they say, oh, you just have to buy in the next year, you have to buy 6 albums at full price or something. It's
exactly.
None of us ever did that. We just got the 20 free discs and we're like, oh, cool.
Exactly.
It's like, okay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that company must have lost so much money.
I know. So but those are and I would hear something on the radio and be like, oh yeah, that's a really cool artist. Let's get that. Mm-hmm. Having no idea what else they did. Right. Not even really knowing that song. I don't know lyrics. We didn't have Google. We couldn't look up any of that.
Yeah.
So
yep. Totally.
Just made it up as we go.
Right.
So there was a Friends soundtrack that was released, and it had
Friends,
the Rembrandt
the
song.
TV show? Okay.
Yeah, the Friends, the TV show.
Okay.
And so it had their theme song, and then the actual extended version of the actual song.
Okay.
But that's where I learned about the Angel of the Morning from the Pretenders. It had Hootie and the Blowfish on it.
Okay.
There was Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell.
Nice.
Toad the Wet Sprocket was on it.
Another good one.
Yeah. So it was just this
yeah.
It was really good.
It's kind of quintessential 90s kind of music.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so, and I didn't, those songs from that cassette stick in my brain, but I don't know much from each of the individual artists. You know,
Right.
it's not like I got albums from each of them.
Sure.
It's just, you know, I'm just singing Big Yellow Taxi as I'm driving along, you know?
Okay.
I don't know anything else she did.
Well, what's funny is like Bethany and I have watched that show. That's one of our favorite shows, and we've seen it a million times. Like we've just seen it so many times, but I don't remember any of those songs being in the show that you just said. The only song that I remember is the theme song, obviously, but
yes.
And then I remember With or Without You by U2.
Yeah.
Just because that was kind of like Ross and Rachel's song, you know.
Right.
So I remember that one, but I don't remember any of the other ones.
Yeah. A lot of them were just kind of transition songs, I think.
Okay. And I know Phoebe drove a Big Yellow Taxi.
Right.
At one point. So I don't know if that was connected somehow, but.
Yeah, I have no idea. Smelly Cat was on it. Literally, there was like a moment in it where they just had the clip of Smelly Cat on it. And,
nice.
You know, I went to go look it up. And Spotify only has like 3 of the songs available. YouTube kind of, because it's a little bit shadier on YouTube.
Right, yeah.
They, you know, have the whole thing, whole set lists on there.
Okay.
But it was just, when you sent out, like, you know, what kind of things shaped your music taste, I was like, going back, and that one, the Saint soundtrack and the Batman Forever soundtrack, like, so the Saint soundtrack was a little bit more techno. It had Moby on it, Chemical Brothers, and
so the Saint, that's Val Kilmer.
Yeah, the Val Kilmer movie.
Okay, dang, I haven't heard that movie in forever.
I know.
I mean, I watched it when it first came out, but that was what, 90s, right? Mid 90s?
Probably.
It's like forever ago.
I know. Okay. One of my favorite movies, though. And so,
so that was more kind of dancey, techno-y kind of stuff on there.
It was. Okay. And the reason why I got the soundtrack in the first place is actually because the love song theme was just, it has like just a really pretty chord progression in it that I really liked.
Okay.
And so I got the soundtrack specifically for that theme to just be able to listen to it more. And it wasn't even on there. Like,
oh, no way.
No,
oh, what a bummer.
So
you're like, oh.
Yeah, but I still listen to a lot of it. And yeah, there's 6 Underground by Sneaker Pimps was the one that sticks with me still, that I kind of goes in my head.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever heard that.
I'm doing and stuff.
I'll have to check that out.
It's just really chill. It's definitely not like the high energy dance kind of music.
Right.
Right. I enjoy it.
Well, when it comes to that kind of music, I prefer the kind of mellow, like laid back kind of stuff, you know, as opposed to, I mean, because I'm not a dancer, you know, anybody who knows me will tell you that. I always tell people, always say, oh, you know, you dance with your wife. Nope. That's one thing I told her before we got married. Look, are you sure you want to get married? Because this is not going to change. I can promise you, this is just not going to change. You know, so most people are like, well, do we want children? What religion are we? We're like, okay, no dancing, just no dancing.
Dancing is for stupid people.
Yeah, exactly. But I totally support stupid people's right to do so. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you want to get out there and bounce around and do whatever you're doing, hey, that's up to you.
You do you.
Yeah, exactly. But Batman Forever soundtrack, I do remember, because that was like U2 had a song on there. Was that I
think so, yeah.
Yes, Me, Hold Me, Thrill Me, or whatever that one. Yeah. And then I think The Offspring had a song on there too.
Yep.
It was called Smash It Up, I think it was called. That's right. And it was only on that soundtrack. That was like, I mean, I think years later, Offspring released like a greatest
released it again,
It was on there, but I remember when that came out exclusively, you could only get it on that soundtrack, and that was before like iTunes, and you could just go on and buy one song.
You find one song.
You know, you got to buy the whole soundtrack in order to get this song, you know. And I think that's kind of smart on the record label's part, I guess. I know, right? Get a popular band to record an exclusive song just for the album, and then be like, oh, well, people got to buy it now.
Well, I guess you got to buy it. That sucks for you.
So as far as like today, as an adult, and do you have like a favorite genre, or do you just still kind of bounce around, or just everything's good kind of thing?
I think, so the Spotify Wrapped came out just recently.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't do Spotify, but I saw
I keep on hearing that.
Posting. Yeah. It's a continuing theme on the podcast, because people always they're like, what? You don't what?
Why don't you
what do you do?
That?
What?
Right? You like music so much. How do you not do Spotify?
Well, because I have my whole music collection. Yeah. And I will still buy albums. I'll still buy CDs, or I'll buy, even if I buy like MP3s off the internet, I'll still put them on a disc and make a case and put it on my shelf. I just like having the CDs, but then I put all of that in my iTunes library. So it's all on my phone. So it's like Spotify, except Spotify, somebody can say, hey, check out this song or this artist. And it's like, oh, there it is. Yes. So it's like a big jukebox, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. But I've been using Spotify to kind of expand my horizons, and it'll, because you can take the music that you really enjoy, and then it will kind of be like, well, how about, have you tried this? Sorry, I've got a light that's doing a thing. Keep on thinking it's lightning because it's raining out. It's not. It's a light bulb.
Oh, is it raining where you're out today?
It is. It's wonderful.
Oh, dang it. Well, see, I wish we got more of that. That's the one thing that sucks about where we're at.
Right.
It's like, even when there's rainstorms all around us, it's like
it just goes right around you.
We might get 5 minutes of sprinkles or something. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And we just get downpours.
Yeah.
So, which makes it rain in our house, which sucks. We're really working on trying to get that fixed. And
you got a leak?
It's been an ongoing, something about the side of our house does not, I don't know, when they added a new, there's like a sunroom addition that we have, and something about it wasn't done right.
Oh no.
This was before we moved in, so we just get to deal with it now.
How long you guys been living in that house?
I think it's been 9 or 10 years.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Oh man. Oh.
Yep. Every time it rains hard, Rob's like, "We're moving."
Yeah. He's like, "We're out
that way, honey."
Yeah. Instead of fixing it, he's like, "We're moving. We're not going to fix it.
Well, because we've been trying
to
fix it. It's not.
Oh, okay. It's a difficult kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. But anyway, back to Spotify, back to genres.
Yeah. So like, okay, right now, and I was thinking of, okay, so Jacob he wants to get into the music industry, music production. So his taste is like super broad, and he listens to everything. And so every so often I'll kind of, he'll show me something and we'll kind of listen to that. And so right now, like Hozier just released something new. And I like the vibe and the feel of what he does.
Did you say Hozier?
Yeah. That's the Take Me to Church guy.
Never heard of it.
You haven't heard Take Me to Church?
I don't think so.
Okay, not Christian. Okay. Not Christian.
So it's a different church.
Yeah, no, not that church. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, no, not Christian.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one. I've never even heard it. Is it rap or is it?
No, it's really just soulful.
Okay.
And he has a song out called Movement right now that's like his hit right now.
Okay.
It's
is that
just
Hozier
really,
with an H or with a J?
Hozier.
Hozier. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so I like the sound that he has. And I still love Imagine Dragons.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm that person.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's great. I never even knew who that was until Aiden did a cover of one of their songs.
Okay. Yeah.
Radioactive, I think he did.
Yeah.
And then
that
kind of made me a fan and made me kind of look into their stuff. And then as I started listening to their songs, I go, oh, I've heard this one. Oh, I've heard
exactly
this one.
Like everything that they've done. You're like, oh, I know that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think they're pretty unique in their style. So I always appreciate that kind of an innovator, you know?
Yeah. Bastille. I love Bastille.
Okay.
Ben is like, you are such a sellout for liking Bastille. I was like, shut up.
Oh man,
I am too old to
be
insulted by you right now.
Yeah. See, and I don't buy the whole sellout thing anyway, because sellout used to mean something different than it means now. You know, and I think for me, the real definition of a sellout is someone who changes their style for the purpose of making more money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, just because somebody changes their style, like something like Green Day comes up on here a lot, because that was probably the first time I'd ever heard the word sellout, is like when Dookie came out back in the 90s, right? And it was like, oh, Green Day sold out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, so they went from a minor label to a major label. That's good for them. Great. Awesome.
Exactly. That's what you want.
Yeah. And they're still writing the same kind of music. It wasn't like they changed.
Yes.
They changed later. Like you listen to them now, very different. But that was after they were already millionaires. So, I mean, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and it's like, just because they're not writing the same type of stuff they used to when they were younger doesn't mean that you can't just mature in what you want to do.
Exactly.
Like,
yes. And that's something I've said before too. Like, as an artist, if it was me, like if I was in a band or a singer or whatever, I'd be like, I want to stretch. I don't want to get like pigeonholed into this one type and just, okay, Ryan, you can only make this kind of music forever.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
What if I want to do something totally different?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Dolly Parton making a rock album.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Which is going to be amazing. Like,
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Just because she's awesome. So anyway.
Yeah. Another thing I really have just been, Spotify, I've been absolutely binging Hadestown, the musical, which it makes sense. I have been.
Yeah, not familiar.
So yeah, no, it's a musical. So
Hadestown. Yeah. So the only musicals I know are the ones that like become popular movies,
like Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera and stuff, right? Like
or
the
Chicago,
big names.
or like what's the one with Hugh Jackman that came out a while ago?
Oh, Greatest
Showman. Yeah, stuff like that. So I still haven't seen Hamilton. It's on my list. Still haven't seen that one.
It's either people love it or hate it. It's really polarizing. So you would probably enjoy it, honestly, because you're not a musical theater person. I think the musical theater purists are very, this isn't musical theater. I like it a lot.
And you are a musical theater person? No? You were?
No, I like musical theater, but not the musical theater that other musical theater people like.
Okay.
So I love Phantom, I love Rent, I love Chicago. But I like the more modern stuff. I really don't like Sound of Music. I really don't like White Christmas and the older where everybody looks back and goes, "Oh, Wizard of Oz, I love that," and I'm like, take it or leave it. I'm not a fan.
Wow. Wow. That's a pretty bold statement to say to everybody.
I know, right?
She hates Wizard of Oz. Wow.
Yep, not a fan.
Okay.
Really not.
Wow.
Guys and Dolls. Robert loves Guys and Dolls.
Okay.
His mom loves Guys and Dolls. And I'm like, I hate it.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I'm neutral about it.
Yeah. I like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. How about that one?
That one's cute.
Okay.
But I'm not sold.
That's the only time. So Bethany loves musicals. And when we first met, I was like, this sucks. Why are they singing? This is a movie.
Know, right?
They just break out in song out of nowhere. What is this garbage,
Yes.
But then she had me watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And I was reluctant, obviously. But by the end, I was like, okay. I kind of like, I mean, it's not like I loved the singing part, but the story was cool. I like that they had brawls and they, some of that stuff was kind of cool. It was funny. There's a lot of humor in it. And I was like, okay, but I still don't think I would say I'm a musical person. Like even the ones I like, it's not usually because of the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
yeah. And so, Hadestown is newer. It's it's not like the newest, but it's definitely newer. Hamilton kind of new.
Okay.
And it's about, what Orpheus and Eurydice's story, how they, on their wedding night, she ends up going down to hell, down to Hades. And he has to go follow her. And then Hades has to decide whether or not he's going to let them leave out of,
so Hades is personified in the play.
Yeah.
Kind of like
so Hades
Hercules.
is a person, Persephone is a person. And it's all like New Orleans kind of style. Jazzy.
See?
Yeah.
I love that kind of thing.
It's gorgeous. The way it starts out is just a trombone rocking out. Just it's different than most musicals, right? In its sound. And so there was something about just the way it sounds, but then the musical itself and the story is like when I tell people about it, I was like, I don't want to spoil it for you, but also it's a Greek myth, so it's not like it hasn't been told for
Right.
so long.
Yeah, it's like somebody watching Romeo and Juliet, and they get to the end, they're like, "Wait, what?
What?
What? What do you mean they're both dead? What?
Both of them?
How could this happen? This is such a tragedy." Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it starts off by saying it's an old song, it's a sad song, it's a tragedy. Like,
right.
That is literally a line, like, kind of at the very beginning of the show. But anyways, the whole thing is that when Hades has them leave, Orpheus has to go in front, Eurydice has to follow behind him, and if he turns around to check and see if she is following him, she goes back. He has to just trust that she's going to follow him out. Yeah. And so that's kind of the big climax of it.
That's kind of a neat concept.
I know, right?
That's kind of like that kind of makes you do mental gymnastics as you think about, like, well, what would I do in that situation? Or,
right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. It's like, yeah, I trust this woman I love so much. You know, I trust this person so much, but do I actually trust them that much?
Right. Right. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that's been made? Like, is there a way I can watch that, or is it only seeing the live performance?
You can watch it. You know, YouTube, there's ways.
Okay. But it's not like a Netflix show or anything yet to where you could.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Now, if it ever was, would you be like, oh, you guys sold out?
No. No. I loved when Hamilton did their thing. Like, I got to finally see it. Like, it was cool. So, and they do it really well. You know, when professionals can film it, and it's not just, you know, somebody sneaking their little camera over here, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and that's kind of the whole, because I had, I don't know if do you know Mark Boer? He's
probably not.
He runs the
maybe.
PCPA here in town. He's like a big theater guy. And I had him on the show, and we were talking about how when there's such a filmmaking and doing a play or a production or whatever in that sense is so different, because when you're filming, it's like, oh, you messed up your lines. Oh, cut. We'll go back. You're like, if you're doing live theater, it's like, nope, just roll with it. You know,
exactly.
There's no way to really perfect the craft. You know, it's just like, it is what it is. You know,
yeah. So. Rob and I did a show where we skipped 15 minutes of the first act. The first act was like a half hour long.
Like, you did it on purpose, or you?
No
way. You totally forgot. Oh my
gosh. A show. So it was a show with only 4 people. We were half the cast. The other half the cast basically missed a line. Then we tried to correct it by picking up a line that, like, we thought was in the right spot. And by the time we realized what had happened, it was too late to go back. And out of a half hour of the show, we skipped about 15 minutes.
Now, but the question is, did anybody else notice that?
No, the only person who noticed. Okay, so the stage manager noticed
because he knows the story, right?
Yeah,
but like the audience, they probably had no clue.
No, the audience had no idea. The only person who did was somebody who had seen. He was a theater major, so he had literally read the show. But he goes, something felt weird. I felt like you guys were missing something, but he couldn't pinpoint it. So, like, I guess we did okay.
What was the name of that one? Was it like
it's called God of Carnage.
God of Carnage.
Yeah. So there was a movie made of it, and John C. Reilly was in it. Kate Winslet.
Oh, wow. And it was called God of Carnage. The movie was too?
I think it was just called Carnage.
Carnage. Okay.
So it was a Polanski movie, which is interesting.
Oh, okay.
He was already in exile when they made the movie.
Yeah.
And all of that.
That guy's kind of a weirdie.
I love it. So, but anyways, we watched it because, you know, research and stuff. And it's supposed to be a comedy on the stage. It's not a comedy in movie form. It just reads differently when you do movies, like you were saying, you know, like film and stage, they just translate different. But yeah, no, 15 minutes worth of a show. We felt so bad. We were like, we charged people for this.
Oh no. Were people upset, or were they like,
no?
Well, there you go. They don't know. Ignorance is bliss in that case, right?
So the mayor of Euless, so we're in like a Hearst, Euless, Bedford. They're all like on top of each other.
Okay. Those are cities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the mayor of Euless was in the audience. We felt so bad. She supports everything. Like, she is so active in her community.
Oh man,
she's incredible.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, to this
good.
day, she probably doesn't even know.
No.
You know? So hopefully
until she listens to your podcast.
Yeah. She'll be calling you, hey, I want my money back.
I know.
How long ago was that show?
Maybe a year ago.
Okay.
Maybe
So
a little
pretty
bit
recent
less. April, something like that. Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are still pretty active?
I don't even know.
In theater stuff, or?
Sort of.
Okay.
Like, I, 5 kids. There's really not much time for Rob and I to have a lot of extracurriculars.
Right.
So I try and get a show a year in if I'm able to.
Okay.
But I'm really picky and choosy about what I want to do because I only get one show.
Yeah.
And I'm
absolutely.
not exactly a musical theater person. So I'm not just like, Carousel's coming in, I want to do that one. And Sister Act, I want to do that one. I don't have that.
Okay.
And so
so you sing, but you are a singer at church.
Yeah.
But so when you do theater, you prefer just the acting aspect of it as opposed to the singing.
I do.
Okay.
I'm not the strongest singer, like, especially so guys can have fine voices and do great in musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
Women have to have stellar voices and they will do okay in musical theater.
Okay.
Especially at the like community level, because just there's so much talent.
Right.
And my voice is fine, but I don't go and take lessons for it. Not exactly ever really wanted to either. So
yeah,
it's not a profession that I was like, I really need to invest in this for myself.
Okay.
Now getting voice lessons for worship and things like that, that's a whole other story, and would like to start doing that, but you gotta find the time for it.
Right. Right.
And so, I enjoy singing. I enjoy choral music. I did that in high school. I really enjoy performing choral music because I like rich chords and I like just the way classical music moves, as opposed to kind of the modern 4 chords. You can play every song in existence.
Right.
And so, musical theater will give me that a bit. I did Hunchback of Notre Dame a little bit ago. And
who'd you play?
I was the mistress who owned a brothel, basically, and just one of the gargoyles. But it's done differently on the stage, so it's not like 3 comedic gargoyles on the side. It's like a whole bunch of gargoyles, and
see, I've never actually read the story before. So are the gargoyles? Is that part of the real story?
But it's not the Disney. Like, I don't know.
Because I know they're in the Disney.
I know. So I know that in the version on the stage, they are basically what allows Quasimodo to talk through his issues.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, and they're in his imagination, and he, has that ability to talk things out.
Yeah. Because we saw, did you guys ever go to the Melodrama when you lived in this area? Yeah. Okay, so Bethany and I, one year, this is years ago, we went to the Melodrama and they were doing Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay.
And it was
at the Melodrama.
At the Melodrama.
As a melodrama?
I don't know what that means. What's that mean, melodrama?
Well, so was it, melodramatic and everything was over the edge and audience participation?
I don't remember as far as that one. It usually is, right? It usually is the audience. Right. Well, that's the way they usually do like the vaudeville review at the end, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But this one, Bethany and I walked out of because we had only known the Disney movie.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know how I assume this was closer to the real story, but everybody dies at the end.
Yeah.
Like, it was tragic. We're like, wait, what? Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like, not only does he get his heart broken, then he's dead, and then she's dead, and everybody's dead. It's like, what is happening? We walked out of there like sad, like, oh man. That was horrible, But it was good.
Yeah,
it was a good performance, but it was just not what we were expecting. That's one of 2 times we've ever seen a serious play there, and the other time was Frankenstein.
Oh,
and it was like the real story, like the real somber, just sad story, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and like the original, So but every other time it's been funny, even if they do, even if they take a serious something, that they make it funny, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But those two times, no.
You're like, what did we just watch?
But but so with musical stuff, so I had Weston Scott on here.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so it's just funny
I'm
because
gonna have to go back. Oh my gosh,
it's not released
I missed
yet.
that kid. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's not released yet.
I was like, how did I miss that?
Yeah, he's pretty. I have him probably 4 or 5 of these ago. I did. So there's like a delay because I'm recording so many and I only releasing one a week, so I'm backing up, which kind of sucks. But
well, at some point you can have a vacation. Then you'll be all caught up and release and take a break.
That's gonna be after January. I'm gonna be all done recording, and it's like, all right, I'm just gonna put them out now.
That'd be nice.
But anyway, we had, and the first time I ever saw him, I didn't really meet him that night, but it was when you guys did a play with him. It was you, and then it was him, and it was another young girl, and it was at Rigetti.
Yes.
And it was I always get the names wrong. Gilderstein and
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
That one. And so we had talked about that when I had him on, because I would meet him later on because he is good friends with another mutual friend of mine.
Okay.
And then I met him a different way, and I was like, "Oh, I remember you from this." He's like, "Oh, crazy. I know the Hamiltons," and
Yeah.
So anyway, he's a really cool guy. But when the episode comes out, you should check it out because he.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, he even talks about you guys on there, so in a good way.
Yeah.
But, like, oh, I hate those guys. No, he's
I don't know. Rob drove him to Berkeley a couple times, so like, I think he has to talk nice about us now.
Yeah, he has very, very good things to say about the both of you. So, all right. So let's see. What did we get? We did genre. We did. One other thing that I've been listening to a lot of, which is totally another thing that probably you never listened to, is drum corps. So marching bands, like the professional marching bands, it's literally not professional because they pay to be in it. It's pay to play. But no, you have to be good. It's not pay to play. You have to be good. It's professional in the sense of it's amazing what they're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so since Jacob's been doing marching band and Kirsty's been doing marching band, I did marching band in high school. That's always kind of been a part of our lives. Mm-hmm. Out in this area, Texas marching bands are different. They are just a different caliber, a different level. Okay. You have 200 to 300 up to pushing 400 kids on a field marching. Like marching bands are huge out here.
Right. Wow.
And the caliber of music they play, you are taking symphonic music and you are putting it on a field, and they're running around a field and playing this stuff. Yeah. It's incredible. But that kind of feeds into watching basically the college level marching bands, but not colleges, right? So they're called drum corps.
Corps, like there's no D on the end, not chords.
Yeah, no, it's like corps, like Marine Corps, drum corps,
like corpse.
Right. Yeah, corpse. Yeah, exactly. And they are basically summer bands because most of them are going to college. Most of them are music. You've got a lot of music majors doing stuff, and they have most of their practice and rehearsal time during the summertime, and then they go and they compete across the U.S. there's like a month basically there where they're just competition after competition. Like when they get into Texas, there's like 4 different competitions like in 1 week before they hit San Antonio. And then all the bands kind of gather, and all the corps gather. They'll perform in San Antonio. Then they scatter across the U.S. again, and then they end up going up to Indianapolis for like finals, basically. And so Jacob and I will go out to Denton, which is like it's about an hour away from us.
Okay.
And go watch them play up at UNT, and we started doing that like 2 years ago or something, but the kids are always encouraged to listen to the drum course to see where they can get to, see what is possible to do on a field.
Mm-hmm. So the drum corps is part of the marching band.
They are their own marching band, basically. Okay. So it is only brass instruments and drums and a front ensemble. So you have like the marimbas and the xylophones and things like that up front. Mm-hmm. But it's really, and then you have guard members. So flags, rifles, weapons, that kind of thing too. And it is, you just have to watch one.
Okay.
to kind of really understand.
TV. I've always been impressed by the choreography in a sense. I mean, I know it's not a dance, but it kind of is a dance because they're like in unison and they have to play their instruments perfectly at the exact right moment to fit. But they're doing it while synchronized marching and moving around. It's not like an orchestra where they're all sitting down, which is still impressive.
Exactly.
Because they still have to play their instruments at the right exact time to all fit together cohesively. But these people are walking around while they're doing it. Yeah. Like I can't even
running.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
They're running.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The amount of talent that goes into something like that. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of been another thing that I will just have on loop. I have a Bluecoats. So Bluecoats is one of the drum corps. Okay. They had 2 years where they had rights to Beatles music.
Oh,
and so
nice.
They had 2 Beatles shows that they did.
Were they just all Beatles songs?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then they released it on vinyl. And so I picked that up and that I play around the house when I'm just cleaning.
Yeah.
And they're a very, like, you know, marching stemmed from like military, you know?
Yeah.
And it has definitely strayed very far from that.
Yeah.
And even in the last like 20 years, you know, like it's gone from a lot of precision lines and grids and things to a lot more abstract shapes, and everybody's dancing on the field. And it's definitely farther away from that. And so there are people who are like, I don't like this anymore. This is horrible.
Oh, okay.
But like, I'm all for it. I love it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of some, like, it's one thing, like I said, to watch that kind of stuff. And I'm sure I don't know completely understand what you're getting at here with what the sound is and stuff. But to hear somebody say, oh, yeah, and I have it on loop at home and I'm listening to drummers, or I'm listening to like a marching band. It's just not what you,
right?
Exactly, like you don't normally hear that. It's like, oh, I went to the football game and man, that marching band was great. But I didn't buy their CD and go home and listen to it. You know what I mean? Like that's totally different. So
yeah, I was telling Jacob. So I am a Cavaliers fan. I've been since I was in high school. They were incredible. Early 2000s was like their prime. This year, their drum line really stepped up. They were not the hardest book. It wasn't the hardest music to play, but they were so clean in what they did. And they were, it was awesome. But I'm going to say the name again, Bluecoats. So Bluecoats this year, they're a very hippie kind of band. It's like, 2 years worth of Beatles music.
Right.
And this year I did not expect to like their show.
Why?
And it was based off, I don't remember the name of it's based off of the poem. It's like, I went to the Garden of Love where something, and the gates of the garden were shut and a chapel was built in its place. And basically like, where free love can't exist anymore because the church has come in and, and ruined it. And that's where the poem is. And I was like, y'all brought this to Texas. Like, I don't know. You sure you want to do that?
Right. Yeah.
But
okay.
I absolutely, their ballad, I listened to their ballad on repeat. It's Bon Iva's 45.
Okay.
And it was done so well. It was the only thing that entire night that like brought tears to my eyes because it was so pretty.
And this is a thing you didn't think you were going to enjoy at all.
No.
Okay.
No. I kind of went into it like,
Yeah.
nah.
I love when that happens though. That like when I go into something like that, just like I'm not into this at all. I'm only going because I'm here with so and so, and they're kind of dragging me here. And then you leave there like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I went to that. Like, that was just awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the other thing that's kind of is drum corps. It's like I was telling Rob, I don't know, my music taste is weird. I don't know if anyone wants to listen to it.
Yeah. I'll definitely check it out. I always check stuff out, and sometimes it's like, what are they talking about? Like, I don't get that at all. And then, you know, other times it's like becomes my new favorite thing for a while, you know, or whatever. So, but Beatles, are you a big Beatles fan, or do you just like it in that version?
So I've listened to Bon Iver a bit. I enjoy what he does. Also, I'm sorry that we're freezing a little bit. So we're.
Oh, did it cut out? I was talking about the Beatles.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I was wondering if it did or not. I couldn't tell, but that'll happen, and I'll just end up cutting that out later. So basically, what we do when that happens, we'll just like restart. So just so like Beatles. Are you like a big fan of the Beatles too, or?
I am becoming more and more of a fan of the Beatles. So it's not something that's, you know, reminiscent of past times or whatever, but I have a set list on Spotify called All the Eleanor Rigsbys, because there are so many different people that have covered that song.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And every time I find one, I'll just stick it on that playlist, and sometimes I'll just play the playlist.
Nice.
Because I really do like that song.
Yeah. Have you heard Aiden's cover of that?
No.
He did a cover of that one too. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, once I got off social media, I kind of lost, you know.
Yeah, that should be on YouTube. If you go just search Aiden Ryan Eleanor Rigby, it should come up.
Yeah. I'm gonna put him on the list too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's one of those, you know, everything he's done in the past, of course, now is in his opinion sucks. And he's like, I can't even listen to that crap anymore. I can't even listen to my old stuff. It's like, son, just
my gosh.
Stop.
That's
just
the process.
I know. Every person I talk to that's like a singer or anything like that in a band, it's always what they say. There's like,
what was I thinking?
Yeah, I can't listen to that first album. Well, it's like, it's the album the fans like the most. Yeah, but you know, we didn't know what we were doing back then. And it's like, we were doing something right because the fans love it.
Exactly.
You know? So all right. So do you have like you may have already mentioned this kind of, even though I didn't directly ask the question, but like something that's influential, or like we talked about, like having an impact on your life.
Right.
Personally.
So high school was probably when I first started having the most awareness that I could have my own taste in music. And that's when a Tool was introduced to me. Now this is, you know, late 90s, early 2000s. So this is, you know, Tool's been around for a while before that.
Right. Probably 90s, I think. Right?
Yeah. A number of albums out before that. But the Tool Enema is the one that, like, when I think back on it, I listen to it, and I was like, oh man. And then Maynard kind of branched and made a perfect circle. And that the Meridenam, that's the only one that like speaks to me. I was a Perfect Circle fan, and now I can go back and listen to it, and I was like, I can't listen to this music anymore.
Oh, like, really?
Yeah. So, and it's not that I don't love it, because like when I hear it, there's like that ache in my soul.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this music. Oh my God.
Is it because it's kind of dark?
It's because it is really anti-religion.
Right.
It's not neutral about it. It's not, you know, picking other topics. It's specifically anti-Christian.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't anymore. I can't do this. And there are very few artists that I've said that about, because I don't expect the world to be in love with Christians. Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like you, like, but if it's like directly like saying things like, where's
your Jesus now?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like, oh,
exactly.
I mean,
even though I
did this and weeping a little bit, and, you know, good luck.
Right. Even though I can kind of understand the sentiment, like, because when I'll talk with atheists, or I'll talk with people like that are very, not just I don't believe in God, but they have like this hatred for all organized religion and stuff. And obviously I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because I used to be that guy. So I can somewhat empathize, but you know, they start talking about why they feel that and all the problems that it's caused and this and they usually come down to that kind of thing. Like you said, where's Jesus now? Where's God now? Yeah. And they look at all these. In fact, I just was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day, and he was, I don't know if you saw that clip, it's kind of going viral, but he was asked, you know, do you believe in God or whatever? Right. And his whole point was, well, the God of the Bible, the Christian God, is described as being all powerful and all loving. And he says, but I don't see how it's just impossible for him to be both of those things, because I turn on the news and I see this happening and this kid died of cancer and thousands of people died in an earthquake and all this stuff's happening. And it's like, my response, I know this is kind of a tangent, but like my response to that is always, that doesn't prove God doesn't exist, or even that he's not all loving and all powerful. It just proves that he's not who you think he is in your own mind.
Exactly.
Right? Like you're thinking, oh, if I was all loving, I would never have earthquakes kill people, and I would never this and that. It's like
I would force people to be nice, and I would.
Yes, exactly.
Is that I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, but back to the music thing, I get it. There's a lot of kind of secular artists that I'll still listen to today, no problem.
Yeah.
But if it's blatant, like, and sometimes maybe it's just one song, like, and I'll just like not listen to that one song, but I'll still listen to the rest of it. Because like you said, from the world, what do we expect? Like them to be like, oh, Jesus is great, Jesus is wonderful. No, it's not going to happen, right? It's going to be, you know, but obviously they're not going to be talking about, you know, they're going to be talking about world issues and that kind of thing.
Right.
So you would call Tool, that band, was influential for you?
I would, Tool and A Perfect Circle, probably more so Perfect Circle. So Drumline, I was in Drumline. Their music tastes, like I said, I take on other people's preferences, and so their music taste was Tool, mainly because the time signatures were crazy,
right?
And that means that A Perfect Circle got lumped into that because they had, you know, branched out at about that same time. And so probably A Perfect Circle was more influential for me. I still think about their music. I still base a lot of the kind of the sounds that I like and prefer off of what they did. And then I don't know if Rob mentioned it, but Dave Matthews Band.
He didn't.
So, Carter Beauford as a drummer is an incredible drummer. And so most people who were in the drumming scene anytime while Dave Matthews was around, they're still around, but they were having a heyday in that time frame. Have just been in love with their music because they are all very musical.
Yeah.
And so
so I'm like a brand new fan of Dave Matthews Band. So I mean, I know the singles. I remember the songs back in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when Under the Table and Dreaming came out, and whatever what was the song off of there? It's been in so many 90s TV shows that I can't even. It was like on Dawson's Creek. It's been in Roswell. It's been in like all these different shows. And it's like, oh, I love that song. Who is that?
Yeah.
And then, but I had inherited some CDs from my father-in-law when he had passed away. His Bethany's mom had been like, hey, Ryan, we're a big music guy. Do you want these? I was like, sure. So I'm digging through, it was like 100 CDs, you know, and there was 2 Dave Matthews Band songs. I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot. And I started listening to it, like, oh my gosh, this is really not only unique, but like totally talented. Like the whole band is just so extremely talented. And the songwriting was unique to me. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody really sound like that.
Right.
So then I started at the beginning, because that's what I do. Like if I get a band I like, I try to go back and start, because I like to hear the progression. So I'm like, I'll get their first album. If I can get a hold of like a demo that wasn't even like a released actual record label release, right? It's like, okay, I'll start there. And then you go on, and I mean, there's definitely a progression. They've changed, they've gone through this, but this is just still amazingly awesome. So yeah.
And I think they were the first band that I was like, this is my band. Like,
okay.
And and there was a year there, I don't remember if it was my junior year. It's probably my junior year. Anyways, Rob and I were dating, and he got me their entire discography.
Okay.
I can't say the word.
Yeah.
That they had from the Reflections of Us, I think the one that has like the little eye picture in the front, try and see the picture inside there.
Uh-huh.
I think before These Crowded Streets.
Okay.
So I think that was what was out at the time.
That was probably the newest one up till then. So yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. And I listened to all of that. I still have a lot of those. My favorite CD, which was he got me the Live at Luther College with Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds.
Okay.
It is just Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds jamming out on 2 acoustic electric guitars with a couple effects here and there, and Dave singing. Nice. And that's all it is. It's 2 discs. It's live.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. The second disc is my favorite, and that was the one that got broken.
Oh no. How'd it get broken?
It fell and then somebody stepped on it.
Oh. Wow.
It was on the band bus, and it happened in a bus.
Yeah. Well, I assume you're not friends with that guy anymore.
Yeah, right. But I can find it on Spotify now. So it's okay.
There you go. That's the beauty of digital music, right?
Exactly.
There is no breaking it,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, because I've had, well, I guess this is still kind of true, but I mean, like when I used to go to like punk shows and stuff back in the day, like there'd always be that opening band.
Yes.
Who you hear that night, and then you never hear them ever again because they don't go anywhere. But they always have that little 6 or 8 song demo tape.
Yeah.
And I have so many of those. And I know that if I lose that, or if the tape snaps, or if something happens, I can't just go on.
That's it.
Yeah. I can't just go on the internet and be like, oh, where's the digital copy of this? It doesn't exist. So what I started doing is actually making my own digital copies of it.
Yes.
And then I can input it into my iTunes, and then I have it there if I need to put it to
just
a
in
CD.
case.
Yeah, because I'm like, this is like kind of, I mean, I know it's not one of a kind because somebody out there in the world has them also.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you try to go find the band online, you can't even find anything about them. They're just non-existent, as far as the world is concerned.
Yes.
So,
I have a friend who was in a screamo band, Christian screamo band.
Oh, nice. Which one?
And I don't even know the name. It was years ago. But they just recently found a lot of the stuff that they had recorded back then.
Okay.
And they're kind of moving it all into the digital realm so that they can kind of listen to it again. Nice. And she'll play it for her daughter. Her daughter's like the same age as Josie. They're besties.
Nice. Okay.
So we call her Twinsy. And
so wait, she's a female. Is she the vocalist of this screamo
she's a
band?
Vocalist.
So a female screamo vocalist.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you this: if you can get your hands on any of that from her, or if you can get the website that she's uploading it to, I would love to hear it.
I will send it to you. Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's from so long ago, but they're finally making it digital. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. She plays it for her daughter. Her daughter's like, that's not you.
Yeah. It's funny because I think as far as screamo goes, I feel like the Christian market kind of like did that better than the secular market. Like because for a while there was so many good Christian screamo bands that were just so awesome. And to the point that like a lot of people didn't realize they were Christian bands because they were getting on mainstream. And it was like, everybody, oh, have you heard this? Like Under Oath or like, Demon Hunter, some of these other bands, like, wait, that's a Christian band? Yeah, dude, listen to the lyrics.
Yeah, right. Like, well, I don't understand the lyrics.
Well, that's the thing, right? And but once you actually get in there and you start reading, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like they're not shy about their faith at all. So
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So lastly, for the music, I like to get if you can do it. If not, you can always send this to me later. But like maybe like your top 5-ish favorite bands, favorite artists of all time.
Oh. So Dave Matthews, absolutely.
Okay.
My musical taste changes so much and so frequently and so often. AnnenMayKantereit, I think they're a German band. I think it's AnnenMayKantereit.
Is that 3 words?
No, well, it's 3 names: AnnenMayKantereit. T, I believe.
Oh wow.
K-A-N-T.
AnnenMayKantereit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's three guys' last names, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Like Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah, they put them together.
Gotcha.
And they're a German band. Henning May is really just a famous singer out there. And did you hear the like viral Tom's Diner song that came out? It was Giant Rooks.
Suzanne Vega, right? Is the original. Yeah,
but there's a viral one that came out just recently of two guys singing, and their band is like it's in a house.
I haven't seen it.
And it's two German bands, and one of them is Giant Rooks, and Giant Rooks is a little bit more famous over here.
Okay.
And then the other one is this band, and everybody, when Henning May comes in, singing, and it's like I'm sitting on it, and he comes in with, and he fills it only halfway, and it's just this gravelly, like soul-filled sound.
Oh, cool!
And I was like, "Who is that?" When I heard it, I was like, I need to listen to more of that. Like Giant Rooks is fine, but who is that?
Right.
And I went and found that, and they have been on repeat. They have a live song called Tommy, Tommi, I think. And it is just the most chill, like, I think I've only heard it live, or like the live version of it. I don't know if they even have like a regular recording of it.
Okay. But they do originals too, or just covers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they have their own songs. And they're just fun. And I have no idea what they're saying. So, that's kind of nice. Sometimes,
Don't you love that though? When you hear like I'll be in a restaurant or in a grocery store or something, I'll hear something over the thing. And like when you hear something, you just know, you're just like, oh my gosh, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever, and I bust out on my phone, the Shazam or whatever, and trying to, hold it up
listen
to the
to it.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
And some of the most heartbreaking times for me is where I may catch the end of the song.
Yeah.
And by the time I get it out, it ends right as I'm putting the Shazam up. I'm like,
no.
Like now I have to wait to hear it again somewhere because I don't even know where to start looking.
Exactly.
It's just it's so frustrating. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah. Panic at the Disco, I'm still an absolute fan of what they do. I was not an emo kid. So I did not get in. I I have memories of listening to My Chemical Romance and Panic and all that kind of stuff back when they were emo. But I was not an emo kid, but the stuff that Panic releases, every time they release something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this.
So that's a band that I'm really not familiar with at all.
Really?
I get them all confused with like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, because I feel like they all kind of came out and they were all kind of known as the kings of emo or whatever.
Yes, right? And they all have the same kind of almost sounds. Yeah.
And, so Panic at the Disco is not Brendan
Urie. That is.
Brendan Urie's. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it right for once. Usually I get that wrong, and maybe it's Chemical Romance. Somebody will say, and I was like, is that the guy that was in the Taylor Swift song?
No,
and it's like, no, that's the guy from Panic at the Disco. Yeah. And it's like, okay, but I don't really know. I couldn't tell you any of their songs. Like, right. I don't know any songs.
It's funny because when I was like, oh, I'm going to have to talk about music, I don't know titles. I don't know artists. I just know that when I hear something, I go, oh, I love that.
Right. Right. See, and I do the same.
Rob knows all the titles and stuff.
But I have to find out who it is because I know if I don't, I'll never get to listen to it again. And it's like, okay, I got to find this. I got to know.
Well, the thing is, I will do it, but then I'll just stick out my Spotify, and then I still don't have to know who it is, but I just know where to find it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. Yeah. I mean, you don't need to know, like, if you're in a conversation about who's that? I don't know. But
yeah, exactly.
It's good. I like it.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, that's 3.
Yeah. Flora and Cash is another one that I have discovered in the last couple of years. Okay. They are a husband and wife, and they
sounds like country, like bluegrass or country or something. It sounds like no,
it's probably kind of folk-ish, but not. They're on my I have a set list that is like Lord Huron and Ben Howard, and just really kind of that chill kind of vibe to it. And Flora and Cash is on that one for me. And I when I go to the gym and stretch, that I kind of listen to that. Like I don't listen to like the Tibetan bells music and stuff. Like I'll turn that on. So
why would you bring that up? Is that typical stretching music?
It is. It's the yoga music, right? It's like the yoga.
That's what I listen to when I'm driving down the street. I don't listen to that death metal stuff like most people do when they're driving down the street.
No, there's like specific kind of yoga music that people like will turn on. It's specific like yoga instructors and stuff. And it's like that's not really what I do. I'll just listen to just really chill kind of just very Lord Huron style kind of stuff.
Okay.
And Flora and Cash is on that one, but every time I hear something that they do, I'm just like, I love this. I love their sound. I love just what they do. It is awesome.
Okay.
So
very cool.
21 Pilots.
Nice.
Like, yeah, that one.
I feel you on that one.
And it's funny because that one is one that I adopted because of my kids.
Okay.
Jacob, I think the first time we started listening to them was when he found Vessel. Yeah. And we would play board games at the table and he'd be like, oh, I want to turn on my music. Yeah. And he'd turn on Vessel. Yeah. And we'd listen to Pantaloons and be like, what the heck is happening right now? What is playing?
Right.
And he goes, no,
that's
they're
such
incredible.
A weird song too. That's a strange
like,
song.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they've just grown on me. I love, so Mary and Ben are very purists. They're like, if you are not doing it the way you recorded it, it is wrong. And so they really struggle with 21 Pilots stuff because Jacob loves listening to all the other stuff they've done, the MTV Unplugged stuff and their videos.
Yes.
Right.
So good. So here's a story. Okay. Because I as you know, I've talked to pretty much your whole family about this before. Jacob and I have had many discussions about 21 Pilots.
Yeah.
So their MTV Unplugged album came out like probably, I don't know if it's been a year yet. It's been a while. And I bought it when it first came out and I just kind of shelved it. I wasn't that excited because I was like, okay, there's no new songs on it. I was like, I want to have it because it's 21 Pilots. I'm a huge fan. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm not like it's not like when they drop, Scale and Icy or something or Trench. It's like, okay, I got to get this and listen to it because these are all brand new songs to me. I've never heard this before. So I just kind of shelved it. Well, in the last month, I finally put it on and I was floored by it.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, every song. I mean, as soon as they started saying like, we're just going to build out. That's what he says in the very beginning. He's like, I know it's become whatever to just kind of do these songs acoustically, but we're just going to kind of, and when we do live, we kind of have backing tracks that are playing already. And we kind of, because there's only two guys, so they're going to do so much.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, we're just going to build out the tracks in front of you while we're doing this. And then I'm listening going, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And then you're getting these totally new sounds of the same song that you know and love sounding totally different. And then they start adding like the crowd noises in there. Like, okay, can I get a kick drum? And some guy goes, doo. And then Josh like, doo. It's like, it's just so awesome to me. So yeah, I was floored by that album.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of person who likes, in fact, I've even said on here multiple times, I'm not a remix guy for the same reason that you're talking about, like with Ben.
Yeah.
Because when I hear a version of a song that I come to love, if you change that in any way, I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
Like, just get it away from me. Right. But with that Unplugged album, it's the only time I've ever had that experience where I was like, oh no, this is great. Yeah. This is fantastic. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
So, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That one, I remember when they released their COVID concert, basically.
Oh yeah.
Like just the versions of songs they did on that, really loved what they did that whole time.
Yeah.
And a lot of those versions are available like on Spotify. And so Jacob will have those on different lists that he has, and he'll play different set lists and they'll come up and I'll be like, oh man, I love this. The transitions that they do are incredible.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so awesome.
And Mary and Ben are just in the back plugging their ears like, make it stop.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. Now, have you guys had the chance to see them live yet?
Jacob has.
Okay.
I have not. I am not a huge concert goer, and it's not exactly that I don't want to, but it's never. I've never had the income to say, yeah, let's be a concert band.
If there's ever a time for you to do it, that's the one.
Right. That's what I keep on hearing.
Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, you know me, I've been to so many concerts in my life. They are hands down the best. Like no one else even comes close to as good. And I've seen them 3 times. Yeah. And they're epic. Every single time we see them.
That's what I keep on hearing.
It's such a performance. It's like, you're not just listening to the songs. It's like, it's a whole production. Like it's just, it's amazing. Right. So, if they ever play
I'd seen one video. It was for King and Country like clip or something, and somebody commented below, if it wasn't for all those lights, this concert would be so much different. And somebody responds, "That's why the lights are there."
Yeah, if you just want to listen to the CD, then listen to the CD. That's so awesome. Oh man. Did you know, speaking of For King and Country, that Addie and I are in one of their videos?
Are you serious?
Yes. You have to know where to look. You have to know where to look. Right. But it's in the a version of God Only Knows. Okay. There's a version of God Only Knows where they have a singer from another band who I know, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but they have a female singer that does part of it. Okay. And we were at a live show watching them. It was me and Addie and some other friends. Right. And they were like, "Oh, we're recording this live for a video. We're gonna do the same song like 10 times or whatever." Okay. And, yeah. You know, we're like, okay. And then you're gonna see a female vocalist come off the side of the stage in the middle. She's gonna be singing. And so we did all that. When we watched the video, we're like, oh my gosh, we're right there. There we are. So you can see us in the crowd for like 10 seconds if you know where to look. Cool. So that's our claim to fame right there, I guess. Yeah, right. So, all right. So that's 5 of those. Yeah. So now I'm going to make it even more difficult for you and ask if you can give me 2 or 3 favorite songs from each one of those groups, starting with Dave Matthews. So Dave Matthews, my number 1 favorite song always and forever will be Two Step. So the version that they did, that Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds did, was probably where I first fell in love with it. But that is one of the songs that they love to just jam out on. And when they do it live, they can sit on it for 15 or 20 minutes and just play. And I only got to see them live once. I was pregnant with Jacob. It was great. Wow. And they came out, and that was an encore song they did. And it's just, I like that song a lot. Okay. From them. And let's see. Who else did I tell you about? And the name I can't say, AnnenMayKantereit. So Tommy. Tommy is my favorite one from them. Just a super chill song. There's nothing very fancy about it or anything like that, but it's a piano and a singer, and I think there's a walking kind of bass line that they play on the piano that just makes me happy. I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah. Sometimes that's all you can say, right? Yeah. Let's see, Flora and Cash. There's a song, it's got a lot of hunger, got a little, even though I'm mining gold, I'm missing home. I think it might be called Missing Home. Okay. It's like a missing home somehow. I think that might be what it's called. Right. Well, that's enough of the lyrics for me to find it. So yeah. Right. Yeah, because that's a band. Again, I've never heard of them, so it's going to be all brand new, which is exciting. Right. Then you skipped Panic at the Disco. Oh, Panic. I don't know if I have a favorite song. I just get their songs stuck in my head all the time. Yeah. I mean, High Hopes, The Death of a Bachelor is always fun. Yeah, I think High Hopes is the one I get
stuck in my head the most. Actually, what is that with the? It's the one that has the shopping cart in it.
Oh, like in the video, you mean, or the?
No, it sings about.
The lyrics are okay.
I wrote this in the shopping cart.
Well, I already want to hear it now. That's intriguing to me.
Don't threaten me with a good time. There it is.
Okay.
That's probably that's probably the most played song that I have.
Okay. All right, and then lastly, 21 Pilots.
Oh, right now, the song that speaks to me the most, and this probably will change, but because of the season I'm in right now, House of Gold.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
because of Jacob, like he's graduating this year, right? Like he's moving on. I'm going to tear up and cry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so he had a competition down in San Antonio. This is like every year the band goes to San Antonio. This is like the last competition they have of the marching season. And so I got to finally go. I never got to go with Kirsty. She went, I think 2 of the 3 years she went down and then COVID hit. So she didn't get her final year of that, but Jacob got to go 3 years, and I finally got to go down and go to San Antonio, which is like what all the band parents talk about. Oh, when we go to San Antonio,
that's like the big dance. That's the
exactly,
Super Bowl,
right? Yeah, it is.
Okay,
for us at least, because we're never going up to Indianapolis. And so when the buses headed out, or we dropped Jacob off, and then I was like, okay, let's go. And I drove on my own. It was just me because we did not have the finances to bring the whole family. And I'm pulling out of the parking lot and just started putting on like my general set list to just get me to San Antonio. It's like a 3 or 4 hour drive or something.
Yeah.
And turn on the set list, and as I'm pulling out, House of Gold starts playing.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. Then you got to pull over because your vision's blurred. Can't see nothing.
I was like, no. Yeah. And then ever since then, every time I drive by the high school, and God just has a sense of humor. Every time I drive by the high school, that song comes on. I was like, really good. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Right now. Really?
Yeah. Wow.
So
okay. So I can see that. I can see the personal kind of connection there. But I guess other than that, for me, that's actually like on Vessel. That's probably not even. That's one of my least favorite songs. Actually,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's just like it's just kind of simple and
And so, but right now, that's where I'm at with them.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Yeah.
And Vessel's become more prominent. Trench is my album because that's when I really started getting into them. The rest of the whole rest of the family was into them, by Blurry Face and all that kind of stuff. All of the kids loved it, but it wasn't really until Trench came out that I was like, okay. I think because it bridged like the heavier metal sound that I'm kind of more used to.
Right.
And that kind of was the turning point for me. And now I listen back to what they've done. I was like, oh no, this is great.
Yeah. We saw them live right during the Trench. That was the second time we had seen them. The first time we saw them was during the Blurry Face tour, and the second time was during the Trench tour.
Yeah.
And when Tyler has the bass.
Yes.
It's just like with Jumpsuit, the first, boom, boom, boom,
right?
Yeah. Like, oh no. And it's just like, it's so powerful, I
think that was the first riff Jacob learned on bass was that one.
Okay. Yeah. I love that album. I know a lot of people coming off of Blurry Face, a lot of people were, I wouldn't say disappointed, not as much as they were with Scaled and Icy.
Scaled and Icy, oh my gosh.
Like, what are you guys doing?
So much kickback on that one.
I know. And I, to be honest, when I first heard it, I didn't really know what to think, but over time, it's grown on me. I mean, it's by no means my favorite of theirs at all.
Right.
And I think whatever they're working on now, I think is going to sound more like Blurry Face and Trench, kind of that sound.
Right.
But do you like follow the lore or anything like all that kind of stuff?
So I don't, but Jacob absolutely does, and he will be like, "Oh my gosh!" and so so when they released Scaled and Icy, and with the COVID movie that they basically released with it. It was like, oh, they're leaning into that lore right now. Like, you can tell that they're really leaning into it with Scaled and Icy. And so there was like a lot of grace and forgiveness on my end. Like, if you're literally trying to tell a story right now, then you need something like this. Like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and my mind I wish I had a mind like I have a cousin who's really into her mind works that way, and she's able to kind of decipher. Alora's really good at this too. Like she knows a lot about the lore with 21 Pilots and everything, and so she'll tell me stuff. But like, oh, did you see that? You know, if you watch this video, there's like a word on the present, and if you rearrange it, it says Clancy, and Clancy's the character that's this, and I'm going, what? You know, it's like I think it's awesome, but at the same time, I don't understand, and I wish I did. You know,
I know, right?
You know, but it's
why do I need to know this?
Yeah, but there's like this continuous storyline that's just so amazing, and it even started. I think it started with Vessel. I think is what Tyler has said, and Tyler keeps saying like, oh, there's all these other characters in the story that haven't even really been touched on yet.
Exactly.
And then he's like, this next album will be about this character and this character. It's like building this big thing, and I think the reason I like Trench so much is because I understood more of the story when Trench came in.
It was much easier to follow.
Right? Yeah, because they're talking about Dima as the city and just like, and you get to that final track, Leave the City, which is just so emotional.
It's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, it's just so, I actually just listened to this album from front to back the other night at work. I was, I work a couple nights at a pizza place now just for extra money.
Okay.
And it's all young kids there. It's like, I'm the old man.
Time.
Yeah, right, exactly. But when we're sweeping and mopping at the end of the night, we'd put on music on the Bluetooth speaker and just kind of blast it throughout the restaurant. And that night I said, I'm going to put on 21 Pilots. And I was like, what album? I put on Trench, and just beginning to end. And it was just like, this is such a well put together, like
it is,
you know, all except maybe Pet Cheetah. I think that just doesn't,
which is Josie's favorite song.
It's a good song. We
cannot skip it.
Yeah. It's a good song. It just doesn't seem to fit. Like in
I know.
In the thing,
you know, Jason Statham, so it is, you know.
Yeah.
No, that is Jocelyn's favorite song off the Trench album. We are not allowed to skip that song.
Okay. Yeah. It's a good song. I like the song. The only song I think every album has a song is not my favorite. And I think on Trench, it's Smithereens.
Okay.
Not a big fan of that one.
I don't remember that one very well.
Yeah, there you go. That's why. It doesn't really,
right. Cut My Lip was the one that I was not.
Yeah.
And like.
That's probably my second one I would say about that. Yeah. It's not
and mainly because I totally thought that he was saying, I've got my lemonade for the longest time. And I was like, this is a stupid song.
You're like, dude, you're usually deeper than this. What are you talking about lemonade for?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we are ready to jump into some politics. Are you ready for that, or do you want to?
Sure.
Need a break or anything? Or you?
No, we're good.
All right. This part where you tell all your deep dark secrets to the world, and you know,
no, I'm pretty vocal about
get
them.
yourself canceled. You know.
I know. I canceled myself. Yeah. I was like, I don't care about y'all. I'm off.
You're like, I'm done. So, all right. Well, let's jump in then. Do you? I mean, first of all, do you consider yourself to be political, or are you kind of just fade into the bushes kind of person, not worry about it, or?
I have opinions.
Okay.
I'm not hugely active in that realm. I would probably, so I like to say that I am like a libertarian, but I'm not.
Okay.
Like, I'm really not.
Well, that term has been rediscovered. I mean, reimagined so many times over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So.
But it's like, I am not a fan of big government.
Okay.
Like, and so I'm probably closest to like a classical liberal.
Mm-hmm. So
not the liberals that we have nowadays that believe the government needs to be like in control of everything.
Right.
And tell everybody what to do and police everyone. Not that kind of liberal.
Right. So what things do you think should be run by the government? Like what? Like,
I just believe that the government is supposed to protect individual rights.
Okay.
So when because if it's up to individuals to, this is like the libertarian idea, if it's up to individuals to take care of individual rights, well, everybody has their own idea of what rights are supposed to be, and whether or not I have infringed on your rights, and like I get to decide whether I've infringed on your right. No, that's not how that works. Like,
yeah, so,
exactly. So I believe that the government should be able to at least help, not monitor, but just be over that. To protect individuals, that we still can have freedoms and all that kind of stuff. And mainly it's from, the big pharma, quote unquote, right? Like the big corporations and that kind of thing, where it really does become the mentality of like corporation over people. And well, our investors want this, and therefore that sucks for you.
Right. Kind of run by the big companies as opposed to the smaller, But I mean, when we talk about freedoms and rights, I mean, obviously you're not saying that there aren't certain things that you should say, no, you should not have the freedom to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
right.
Like
and that's
says,
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
Right.
So I have a right to life, and you don't have the right to take that life from me.
Right. But I think everybody would agree on that one. But like when you get to like happiness, and you say, well, what makes somebody happy? The pedophile might say, it makes me happy to molest little children.
Right.
So you're getting in the way of my right to that. And you're like,
and
no,
that's
you
where
do
I think
not have a
government's
right.
allowed to step in and that kind of thing,
Right.
Because now you're stepping on the right of the child too.
Yes. Right.
So it's those kinds of things I believe the government should be able to step in and protect, and to protect its citizenry. I think it's because of money mainly. Okay. When people can lobby politicians for a corporation, you start losing the humanity in that.
Right.
And when corporations' interests are more important than the people's interests, I think the government should not be on the corporation side.
Right. Yeah. But it's like this big machine where, you got money pumping in from somewhere, and then there has to, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing.
Exactly.
Which is unfortunate, but that's kind of where we are,
Right.
So,
but we have politicians who are richer than their citizenry.
Right.
You should not be getting rich off of my tax dollars.
Right.
I'm not getting rich off my tax dollars. Why are you getting rich off my tax dollars?
Yeah. You're getting poorer off your tax dollars. So, yeah. So would you say then, like, as far as like, back to the freedoms thing, like you have the freedom, the government should step in certain times. Do you think that it's only actions that should be stopped? What about like beliefs and thoughts? Like back to the pedophile again. If the pedophile believes, or like say that he's like, I have these thoughts and I believe that I like to molest little children, you don't think that should be policed. But if he's actually going to do it,
right,
that should be policed.
Yes, that should be policed.
Okay.
I am very cautious to not be the book banning has become a big thing right now, especially in the conservative circles. And I can't get on board with stuff like that.
Okay.
Because exactly what happened in Utah, then you're banning the Bible.
Right.
Why have we?
Yeah. Well, I think so. The problem here, though, and with this discussion, is we have to distinguish what we're talking about, because like people keep going after Ron DeSantis. Like, I don't know if you watched the debate between him and Gavin Newsom just had a debate. Okay. And that was one of the ththings Gavin Newsom kept saying. You keep banning books in Florida, Ron. You keep banning books in Florida. And that's kind of what a lot of people are saying.
Right.
But again, the distinction needs to be made, because Ron DeSantis kept saying those books aren't banned. There's no those books are not banned in Florida.
Right.
What we're talking about here is, should those books be allowed in the elementary school library?
Right.
That's the question. So when we talk about banning books, that's what we need to be talking about.
Right. Well, I have, a librarian friend who has, there is a list, or there are people that lobby the local libraries, the public libraries, for books to be banned.
See, I don't
right,
agree
and
with
it's
that.
like you can't do that.
Yeah, right.
like you don't get to decide that.
Right.
Like,
okay, so but do you see any? I would agree with you, first of all, but do you see like any limit to that?
So I think, like the same idea that pornography has a age limit, right? They could get in a lot of trouble if minors are watching their sites, right? There's a whole reason why they're asked for it. There's a reason why, on alcohol websites, you can't be under 21 to view this, all that kind of stuff.
Right. But leaving the kids aside, like for adults, like in a library, you think there should be no ceiling there, like any book, whether it's pornographic, whether it's overtly violent, whether it's
No, I don't. Whatever. I don't believe that there should be a policing of freedom of thought.
Okay.
Because you can't if you don't push those outside limits, you don't know where you're coming into the middle. Like when we say you can't do this on this end and you can't do this on that end, then all people want to do is go farther. Right? Don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah, it goes back to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can eat from any tree except that one.
Except for that one. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it's just nature of the beast. We're like, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting because public libraries are funded by the public. So the public gets to kind of decide what's going on in the public.
Right.
But when you say you can't have Mein Kampf, you can't have, at what point it starts getting smaller and smaller, right? It's like we've put limits now, and it gets, and so open discussion should be about everything and anything,
right?
Because once you put taboo things on the table, like the church, talking about sex was taboo. You cannot talk about sex in the church. And then what happened? People had no idea what to do. And then all of a sudden, everything was okay in the church because nobody knew what they were doing.
Right.
Like, you have people rebelling against these rules that they think are in place because nobody talked about it. And it's like, no, that was never a rule. I don't know why you thought that was a rule. But let's people
I'm with you
God
sure.
closes his eyes when the husband and wife are in the bedroom. God just closes his eyes. It's like, he doesn't.
That's because it's kind of creepy to think he's sitting there watching like a voyeur or something. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
I know, right?
But of course that's us us making God as a man, or like
exactly.
We don't realize he's spirit. He's not a sexual being. He's not up there going, ooh, you're looking pretty good there.
I know, right?
So
but because there's no discussion about, because this is off limits. We don't talk about that. That's off limits. You can't talk about that. Like people make up their own theology. Whatever.
For sure.
And it kind of the whole hate speech on campus sort of thing, that issue that's happening right now, your words are violence. And it's like, no, words are not violent. But if we stop talking, violence comes because people have no idea what they believe. And we just get polarized without ever learning how to actually hash out ideas.
Right.
And there are good ideas and there are bad ideas. There are.
Sure.
And you don't get to figure out what those are if you cannot talk about them.
Right.
So, and if you can't talk about them intelligently, and this is why, as far as the politics realm is, I was like, I can talk about it, but I can't, I know what I believe, but I also know that I'm very uneducated about it.
Okay.
The more you know about what you're talking about, the easier it is to shape where you fall in that belief system. And when you can talk to somebody who also has the same understanding of their beliefs, not just because they saw it on TikTok or not just because everybody else is doing it, because they really know what they believe and why they believe it.
Right. But see, isn't that the problem today? Is that's where that's where most of the young generation is getting all of their information from is things like TikTok and Instagram.
Exactly. Like 10-second snippets of.
Yeah. And they become an expert and they think, it's definitely like this. And I know that this is going, it's like, no, you don't know.
It's not.
Yeah. It's like, go out into the world, talk to people, see if that's really what people think and what that's as a majority, and so, I mean, I'm definitely with you on when we're talking about the adult level of books and that kind of thing. And like I said in the beginning, that's why that's such an important distinction to make, because I think most people would agree there. I think Ron DeSantis in Florida would agree there. Right. He would say, no, all these LGBTQ books and sexual books and stuff for adults, hey, they're adults. That's up to them. You want to read that stuff? That's up to you. But the problem is a lot of parents are like, I don't know what's in that school library. I'm dropping my kid off at 8:00 in the morning. I'm picking him up at 2:30. I don't know what they're reading and looking at and going in because that's always the debate or the argument from their side. Well,
and get more involved.
Yeah, get more involved.
That's my issue.
Well, yes, but back to the forbidden fruit again and the tree. Like unless I'm literally with my kid in school for his 8-hour school day, I don't know. They go in the library. Maybe he's curious about this sexual book that's on the shelf. I would have been at that age. Of course, if it's an option, I'm going for it. It'd be like if you put a Playboy magazine in between the things and only the students knew about it. Those those boys are gonna be going to that first thing. Like, ooh, look at this. Right. So to me, in that option, the whole point is, and this is the point, like Ron DeSantis and others are making, is first of all, why is that even in an elementary school? Like, what are you trying to do? Why do they need that
at all?
Yeah, they don't. And the LGBTQ thing is totally a side thing because it's just anything sexual.
Yes.
I mean, it happened to be that some of those books were homosexual and sexual at the same time, but that's not the point. Even if it was hetero, we don't want books about
sex. It's still not okay.
Yeah. Yes. My fourth grader does not need to be seeing a graphic novel with pictures of oral sex and all these other things when they're in fourth grade.
Right.
I'm sorry. They just don't need to be seeing that, Right. So my question to the school board is, why is that in there?
Right.
What is your motive with putting that in the library? What are you trying to do with that? You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah. So a couple things. So like part of those conversations happen when your kids are completely comfortable talking with you.
Right.
And that is one of those things that you have to start young. And if you don't, there's a lot of work that just has to be done to not overreact when they tell you stuff.
Right.
When they're like, I found this website and, it's not, I know it's not right now, but I've definitely, to not overreact and to not scare them away from being able to have the conversation with you.
Yeah. If your kids would even say that to you, I would say you've already done something right to begin with.
Yes.
Because I can assure you that none of my 4 kids, if they ever came across a website that was pornographic or something, they would not come to us and say, hey, we found this website.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah, but it's, the conversation that says, hey, okay, so Mary's school, she is in theater at junior high. She's a 9th grader now, but the junior highs over here go through 9th grade. Okay. She is still technically a high schooler. Like all of her grades go to high school level, but she's physically at the junior high still. And she's at theater over there. And the theater community is definitely different than the Christian community.
Yeah, I bet.
And in 7th grade, she shows up and the first thing they do is they all sit in a circle and they introduce their name and their preferred pronouns.
Of course.
And Mary's like, what?
She's like, what did I sign up for here?
I don't. Because one, people were giving made up names, like Spider-Man. Oh, we're using our made up names.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And 2, they were saying genders that they were not.
Right.
And she's looking at it, going, "What is happening right now?" And you said you've never seen Hamilton. Is the King has these like 3 songs and they're hilarious when he shows up. They're like classical theater kind of sounding because he is the king and it's old school and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's talking about how they are changing presidents. Like he's like, wait, Washington's gone. What do you mean Washington's gone?
Right.
He stepped down and he goes, I wasn't aware that's a thing that a person could do. And he sings this. And every time I think back on this story, I think that's exactly what was going through Mary's head. Was like, I wasn't aware that's a thing that a person could do.
That's so awesome.
So she decided that she wanted to be called Hamilton from then on out.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, whatever.
Well,
honey.
hey, that's her name anyway, right? So, I mean.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's just so innocent in what she was doing.
Yeah.
You know, but being able to talk with her a little bit about it and why her classmates feel like that and, you know, all of those conversations and, you know, talking about the dating scene with the boys and how do we respect women versus how does your peers respect women and you know with Kirsty it's you know with kids with the girls it's more how do you respect yourself because I think girls tend towards trying to please boys more than boys tend towards trying to please girls.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for different reasons too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, with the girls, it's more how do you keep true to yourself? You know, and with the boys, it's, you know, how are you respecting the women around you?
Yeah.
You know, and having a lot of those conversations of just nothing is off the table in general open conversation.
Right.
Helps with the more private conversations too.
Yeah, which I think that's great. So, that's the way it should be.
Yeah. And
I feel like with Alora, we did that well. And I think that, I mean, I'm sure we had failings, but now that she's 25 and she's married and she's
doing okay.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but she's still very open. Like she will talk about stuff all the time. And, you know, and it's just, she's easy to talk to about stuff, you know, to where I feel like the other three, not so much, you know.
Right.
So, but the other two of them aren't adults yet, so I don't know what that's going to look like later in life. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious, just if you're willing to share this, like what that conversation looked like between you and Mary when you were having the discussion about the pronouns and the whole like what? How did you explain that? And what did you say?
A lot of the conversation was that if we don't have an identity in Jesus, we don't have an identity, and we're just trying to find where we fit in. Okay. You know, a lot of her peers are really just looking for a place that they feel like they're comfortable.
Yeah, just like any 13-year-old kid on the planet.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and really uncomfortable in your own skin when you're a preteen.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
And even when you're in high school, you're still uncomfortable in your own skin. And that doesn't change much until like your 20s, like until you really kind of start to figure yourself out. And if you don't have you know, if you don't have something that tells you, I've created you this way, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, I promise it's going to get better. Like you're going to be okay.
Right. Right.
Then you reach and grasp for anything. And society now has made their own version of that, and it is be who you want to be. And you know, I was born like this, and you know, they have their own answer, and it's not the right answer, but if and people don't have Jesus as an answer, they don't know.
Absolutely. And do you think like public schools and I mean, because obviously society in general, do you think they're pushing that concept?
Not the ones that we're at right now.
Okay.
I can't speak to anywhere else, but you know, the HEB school district and the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 schools that they're at. Wow. 1 elementary school, 3 junior highs, and a high school. Now we're not at one of the junior highs, but Kirsty and Jacob went to the 3rd junior high. Okay. So right now we have 1 elementary school, 2 junior highs, 2 separate junior highs for different things. Ben's at 1 for STEM, and Mary's at 1 for theater. And then Jacob's at the high school level. Okay. And as a district, no, there's no agenda. Okay. Now, are there individual teachers? Yes, there are.
Okay. Right.
But most of the ones that we've run into, when my kids kind of push back, they kind of go, "Oh, that's what you think. Okay." And then they move on. And it's not like an argument, you know? Yeah. So
don't make it into a big deal and it won't be a big deal.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Kind of thing. Okay. But you guys don't have anything like any issues with like biological males in the girls' locker room or anything like that going on?
That really hasn't come up.
Okay.
I think there might have been somewhere an outlier school, one that's farther away from us, like local, but not one that we've had to deal with.
Okay.
And there are some school districts that are even more conservative than what we've got going on, which is interesting because I think sometimes there's like a mountain out of molehills kind of thing. Like, we heard that this is an issue in California, and so we're going to make it an issue here.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's true. I think that's true. And that's kind of the argument from the other side is always, you know, you conservatives are always making it sound like this is happening so often all over the place, you know,
right.
But it's just not, right. It's just not, it is happening, you know, and I have a friend in this town who it happened at a school in this town where he had to go down and talk to the principal and be like, look, what's going on? And he was like, my daughter says that there's a boy in the girls' locker room. You guys are okay with this? And the principal's like, no, we're not okay with that. And my friend goes, well, no, she says so-and-so named this. And the principal goes, oh, you see, they go by this. And on our records, they're female. And my friend's like, yeah, but they're not female. Oh, no, sir, in our records, she's a female. He's going, you know, what are you talking about? Like,
does she have the plumbing or
right? Yeah, exactly. Well, it doesn't matter, right? To that, to certain people on that side, that's not, and that's kind of the critique always to me when I have this discussion with people on the other side of the fence. Are like, are you just saying people are nothing but penises and vaginas? Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, thank you so much.
All you are is just walking around as sex organs, and that's all you are. That's all you matter, and that's no. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But that is a distinction.
I hate that, like, the party of science literally like is like, no, science doesn't exist in this. I am what I am because I feel like it.
Right. Yeah. The science only crowd is very selective, right?
Exactly.
Only when it fits my agenda. Only
right. Science is my God,
except for in these. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't know if you saw Matt Walsh's movie.
I did not.
What is a Woman?
I did not.
It's really
I've heard
good.
about it. Yeah.
It's great. It's fantastic. I mean, you know, because you know Matt Walsh, so it's part funny. Yeah, it's hilarious. Like the first half is hilarious, and the second half is actually very serious, and it's very emotional. And because he's interviewing people that have gone through transition that are now later in life, and it's very emotional. But I think it makes some really good points, and it's just the whole idea that whatever you are and you should be treated as is whatever you believe yourself to be is very dangerous. Yeah, and I'm not saying every trans person is dangerous. I'm just saying the concept is dangerous, which is right. Something that like Ben Shapiro has brought up before. Like, well, how come I can't identify as 65 and go get a social security check?
Exactly. How can I can't identify as a child?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if we're going to say that whatever you believe yourself to be, who you are and who we need to treat you, if that's the concept that we're supposed to adopt, then you can't tell me I'm not 65.
Exactly.
You can't tell me that I'm not a millionaire. If I identify as a millionaire and I go to the bank, how come? Who stole all my money? I'm a millionaire. Where's all my money? Well, sir, you only have $2 in the bank. No. I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
So you better produce that money right now.
Exactly.
You know, just like, you know.
Yeah.
So and you know, and I understand that people will get upset with me for making those comparisons, but I'm not making the comparison saying that those two things are the same. I'm saying the concept is the same. It's the same argument that you're making to say that I need to treat you as a woman even if you're biologically male. The argument itself is no different.
Right.
Because on each side it's like, well, this is what I think. This is what I identify as, what I believe myself to be.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So.
Well, it's like, and Ben Shapiro was saying that, like, you know, I will argue this issue to the ground in a setting where we are having a civil discourse. Yeah. But like, meet me privately. I'm still going to treat you like a human being.
Right. Like, and I think we should. And that's the misconception, is that they think like, I do not hate the trans community. I do not hate trans people. I have no problem with them as people. I will sit down with them and have lunch and have a discussion. I will love on them and talk to them. Great.
Yeah.
You know, but that doesn't mean I have to
you're still created in God's image. I love you.
Correct. But I don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with me in order for us to love each other. You know what I'm saying?
And it doesn't have to be that issue. It could be on any issue. I don't have to agree with you on everything.
Yeah. Pineapple on pizza.
If I did.
You know?
I love pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, so do I. but there's weirdos out there who
really
are willing to die on that hill.
No, right.
Oh man. So
yeah. Well, and so the other thing is like like I said, I did not come from a Christian home. Mm-hmm. My mom is probably more liberal, she's not on the current liberal policy makes people like Bill Maher extreme right wing.
Yeah.
Right. The centrists all look right now because they're not that far left.
Right. Because the left has scared them over there.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're still pretty centrist left. Like, yes. I don't think they've moved.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I know. So my mom is like centrist left, know?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I was raised as, and it's fine. And that's what I was for a very long time in high school and all that kind of stuff. And I would, and had I been in high school now in the same situation, I would probably be very pro-trans rights and pro-gay rights and all that kind of stuff. Right. I was I don't believe, and then I got saved in high school, but then it was like I don't believe in abortion for myself, but I don't believe in policing other people's right to abortion. Right. And I've definitely changed since understanding more of the logic behind why I don't support abortion. Mm-hmm. But for the time it made sense in high school. But during that time period, like if I had words, like the kids have words nowadays for their feelings, for emotions, for the way, like the word gaslighting exists now.
Right. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Didn't exist back in high school for me.
Nope,
if it did, I would have had words to be like, excuse you, sir. You are gaslighting me right now. Like, there would have been better words for that. Mm-hmm. And so had I had the words back in high school, I would have identified probably as like pansexual and male leaning.
Okay.
And I don't know if I would have gone as far as identifying as male, but I possibly, like, if high school me was in school now, probably would have, because of a little bit more groupthink nowadays kind of happening with that.
Sure.
But I would have had that identity at the time without Jesus. And so like I come from a place where I get it. Like I do. I really do. And that has morphed now for me because my love for everyone, I'm realizing, is not just a sexual love, right? Like, which is what the world's version of love really kind of was.
Right. Yes.
And I love everyone in more of an agape kind of way than an eros way now.
Right.
And it makes sense to me now because I have a better lens to look at that through.
Right.
But like, I don't believe that children should even have these. I don't believe that this conversation needs to happen. Like, I have a little girl at my school who thinks she's a bear half the time.
Right.
Like, she doesn't understand. Like, and if somebody just says, "Oh, do you identify as a bear?" She'd be like, "Yes, absolutely."
Right. So let's go through the surgeries to make you become a bear.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, Josie still calls herself a cheetah half the time. She's 7. Like,
yeah.
I think kids are just exploring the world around them and what it means to be human and what it means to live. And I don't think that sexuality needs to be introduced in any sort of way.
No.
At all for a child. They don't need that conversation.
No.
And it's really perverse to bring that into that kind of setting.
Right.
Like, what kind of person do you want to have sex with?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, they're not even thinking about that, right? And that's the problem is that we're awakening something in them at such an early age.
Yeah.
This has been the problem with kids that are molested at a young age.
Yes.
The problem with that is they're awakening sexual things in that child that should not be awakened until puberty or until 14, 15, 16, right? It's natural and normal and God given that those things would awaken eventually, but not so early. And when they're showing kids these things and they're asking these questions of kids, they're not even thinking. And if they are thinking about that, it's because they've already been exposed to something prior. Right. Whether it's MTV or a song, or they're listening to Cardi B, or they're listening to something that's teaching them these things. Because they're not going to, boys and girls, until they hit puberty, they're not even going to think about that. It's not going to be, they're not going to look at the opposite sex like, oh, I think I want to go have sex with that person.
Exactly, right? Like, I really like that.
They shouldn't even know what that is, right?
Exactly.
They're like, yeah. So it's horrible.
Yeah. And then, even if the conversations of, oh, I like that person, or like, oh, I like that person in a different kind of way, or I don't feel comfortable in the skin I'm in, it's like, this is just all part of the growing up process. One of the hills that I will die on, and Rob hates it. He hates this one because he's a guy. I think I'm allowed to have this opinion because I'm a girl. I don't know. Female privilege. Is that I believe that we have masculinized and feminized far too many things. And it makes people have to draw a line that it doesn't have to be drawn. And I say that in painting your fingernails, wearing makeup, wearing the dresses included, high heels. Like, there are things that our society says boys don't do, girls do. Girls don't do this, boys do that. And I think some of them, down to the blue and pink, right? Like, there are stupid lines. And what Robert hates is that my line is so far. He's like, no, boys do not wear dresses. I was like, go to Morocco and tell them that they don't, that their tunic is not acceptable. Right. Like,
yeah, but so like that's
culturally,
kind of yes.
Okay.
Yes, but like take American culture. Where that's nuts. But what you're saying is we should, in a perfect world, in your eyes, we've erased all of those lines. Right. And boys, maybe the majority of the boys here are wearing dresses like they are in Morocco. But I don't think in Morocco it's a feminine thing.
It's not a dress. No. It's not.
It's just.
But that's the thing. I don't think it needs to be a feminine thing. Right. Like, we call it a feminine thing.
Sure.
And so
it's a new thing. It's kind of a new thing. If you look at pictures of people back in the 1800s. Yeah. The little boys are wearing what looks like
they're wearing little white dresses.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but it wasn't see, I think the problem today is if your son comes home and he's wearing a dress and high heels and lipstick, for the average person, especially for guys, I think you're right there. It's definitely a guy thing. If our son comes home that way, our first thought is, are you gay? Are you cross-dressing? Are you transgender?
You think you're a woman now?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And I think it's not the dress that's the problem. It's the reason you're wearing the dress that could be the problem. Right. But like, if I just, let's say there's a Halloween party Bethany and I go to, and I dress as Dorothy and she's the cowardly lion. So I'm wearing a dress. Like, I don't think anybody's going to think, oh, mine must be gay. Yeah, exactly. Well, I couldn't do, I have to wear a wig. But I mean, like, I don't think that the assumption would be, oh, Ryan must identify as a woman now. Ryan must be transgender, or he's gay or something. No, because I'm dressing up for a specific purpose. That's a party that's a dress up party, and we're doing it to be funny. You know, but if my high school son is going to high school every day wearing high heels and a dress and lipstick, I might have an issue with that. Again, not because of the dress, but because now I'm going to start wondering, why are you doing that? Like, what's your reasons behind that? You know, so
okay, okay. I say this. I think if guys knew how incredibly amazing dresses were, you guys would be in them much more often.
Because it's so freeing, you mean?
I can throw on a dress. I can roll out of bed and in 5 minutes throw on a dress, slip on a pair of like flats, and look like I have done myself up for the day. Okay.
Okay.
And yes, it is so freeing. Like, it's just the zippers and the belts and it's so uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm just saying, if you guys knew how amazing dresses
well, I to be honest with you, I've never worn a dress, so I couldn't I don't think I've ever worn a dress. I'm trying to think now if I ever did for any other reason. Not to my memory have I ever worn a dress.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe, you know, maybe we'll be like,
so,
yes,
yeah, I think
this is great.
Right. Well, it's like I've read stories of people that's like, you know, husbands completely like cisgendered men, but just love dresses because they're awesome.
Yeah. Sure.
But, you know, so I believe that if a boy is doing it, it's masculine. And if a girl is doing it, it's feminine. Whatever.
So if a boy is wearing a dress, it's masculine.
Yeah, because he's a boy.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
So then let me ask though, do you think there's anything that falls into the categories of masculine and feminine then, or is it completely relative and subjective?
I haven't. Well, okay. So there are gender roles that God has ordained.
Okay.
Right. Those ones are masculine and feminine specific.
Like
boy
what?
And girl specific. So men are to be the provider and head of their households.
Okay.
Women are to submit to their husband's authority.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, you know, the Proverbs woman, she worked, she, you know, was a boss over people. Mm-hmm. She, you know, there was all sorts of things that she did that we kind of consider masculine things that are not, and they were not, you know, but there are biblical things that God has called men to do and biblical things he's called women to do.
Okay.
And I do believe that those are, you know, specifically male and specifically female.
Right. Those are roles basically of male men and women, and within the like a God-centered family unit.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And beyond that, I think a lot of it is tertiary issues that I think my reasoning behind saying this is because I don't think that they need to be issues.
Okay.
I think the wanting to wear the dress and the lipstick and the high heels for a boy needs to be addressed as a heart issue more than it needs to be addressed as a behavioral issue.
Sure.
You know, what's going on in here? Why do you feel, you know, validated by that?
Right. Yeah, and I would agree. So, I mean, because if you go back to when clothing was first invented and you say it could have been the opposite, it could have been dresses were for men and
kilts,
whatever. Well, yeah, you look at kilts,
right?
But I mean, but
they're still incredibly
like,
masculine, you know, or whatever.
But even if you look at like modern day fashion today, and you look at like skirts and you know blouses and this kind of thing, like it very well could have been that when they first started doing that, they designed them the other way. And then you and I would be sitting here today in 2023, and the majority of men would be wearing skirts and blouses, and that would be the norm, and that would be seen as masculine. So I think I'm agreeing with you in the concept of that, of saying like we're the ones that are putting those labels on that clothing.
Yes.
But I think since we are in a world where that is what has been deemed, right? It's just the way it is. I mean, to the point that when a man wears a dress, like I said, we assume that he's transgender or he's cross-dressing or I mean he is cross-dressing, but I mean like for a different reason. Yeah. We just assume that. So I guess the question then is like, how do we, since we are in that place, what's the solution? I mean, I guess we could get all the men to wear, and the more men wearing dresses will kind of start eventually balance it out.
I just think we need to stop caring what other people are doing with their physical appearance.
I don't think that's a gainable. I don't think that's a possibility. I think the majority of people that are able to just like not notice that or not think things about that is going to be very slim.
Oh, that's fine.
Do you know what I mean?
On them.
Well, I know, but I guess as a whole,
I know,
it's going to be difficult.
But you know, I mean, you have things like, okay, so like you go to a high school, right? And the people that get dress coded the most are girls, right? Because they're dressing so scantily and their shorts are too short, and the guys are still showing up in the ripped jeans and the tank tops that are way, you know, not even a top, and you know, and the guys aren't getting dress coded, but the girls are, because the girls are being sexualized more
and do you think
than
that's
the
wrong?
boys are. I absolutely do.
Okay.
So I mainly because like Kirsty, okay, so Kirsty is a more curvy girl. Now, she's not like large. She just has curves.
Okay.
She had one friend, and they dressed almost exactly the same, but this girl was very slender.
Yeah.
And this girl could wear anything she wanted and never get dress coded.
Okay.
Kirsty could wear the exact same thing and she would get dress coded.
Right.
Because she had curves.
Yeah. Well,
and so it looked more sexual.
Sure.
When she wore it.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And that I think is not right.
Okay.
So I get it when someone shows up in their lingerie, like, okay, not appropriate.
Sure.
But unless we're going to go to like school uniforms and stuff,
yeah,
I think some of the policing of what people are wearing is just unnecessary.
Yeah, I think a big thing though, the biggest factor here is, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think, oh, this is definitely right or this is definitely wrong. This is just kind of where we are. Again, how we got here, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But
right?
I think just as a general rule, and I'm sure you know this, men are more visual as generally. Obviously, you can find one woman who's more visual than another one.
Yeah, we're like where the bell. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But as a whole, men tend to be more visually stimulated than women, right? Like that's why 95, or it's probably even higher than that. I don't know the statistic. Up in the high 90s% of watchers of pornography are men.
Right.
Now, why is that? Well, because they're more visually stimulated. That's something they're looking for. So where, there are some women that are very, very into that, but it's not a very big percentage.
Right.
To where women are more emotionally driven. You know, this is why even in marriage relationships, and you have, the marriage bed, usually the woman's more interested in the emotional connection.
Right.
And the guy, that's important to him, but it's also, it's a physical thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is a physical thing for us. And it's just the way we're made. And I think God made us that way on purpose. So yes, on the surface, what you're talking about sounds like discrimination. It sounds like, well, how come the guys can walk around in the locker room with their shirts off, but the women can't, or are not even in the locker room. Let's say they're out on the PE field, they're running track. And the guys have their shirt off and they're running around, they're sweating and all this kind of stuff. Now, if a girl stripped down completely topless and she ran around the track.
Or even in her sports bra.
Even in her sports bra.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And it sounds like a double standard, but for me, it gets into those ideas of roles again. And again, that's probably where we'll disagree. Yeah. But because I'm looking at the problem that's being caused. Like if a very well-bodied, for lack of a better term, young girl is wearing a sports bra and some shorty shorts or something, and she's running around the track. Now that's going to cause a lot more guys to be focused on that than like if a guy ran around even shirtless, completely shirtless, ran around the track. There's not going to be a bunch of girls that are going to be like, oh man, I got to get that guy's number. And again, it's hard to even say these things because yes, but then Ryan, but are you saying that that's the girl's fault?
Right.
Right. And it's like, well, no, it's not necessarily her fault. I mean, she didn't cause herself to develop the way she did. That's the way God made her. Right. So, but then you get on the far side of that and you get into this whole thing with like the gyms and all these videos coming out of the women wearing a G-string to work out in the gym. Right. And then when a guy looks her direction, you pig, what are you looking at? What's your, she gets all upset. You sexist, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, I don't think that's right either because I'm not justifying the man looking at the girl. Right. But it's like, it's really hard for us not to do that. So all we're asking is do us a favor, help us out a little bit here, especially if we're married.
Yes. There are consequences to your actions, right? You choose to do that and you understand you will be sexualized by people.
Sure. Like not that makes it right.
But understand that you will be. That is a consequence to your action.
Yes.
I do not believe though that I still need to police that action.
Okay.
So,
well, you do to an extent, because you said earlier you don't think she should wear lingerie, right? You think that should be
underwear.
Policed. Yeah.
Right. So there's a limit. When people are wandering around in underwear, that is illegal. Like
so that should be policed.
we are now pushing laws.
Yeah. So that should be policed in your view. You should think that should be policed, but not a little bit.
Yes, when you're doing something illegal, you should
okay.
not be doing legal things.
Yes. But let's say it was legal.
Public indecency. So.
What if they did though? What if they pass a law like they did in Australia that says women can mow the lawn topless?
All right.
I
don't care. Okay. I don't care. I would live in a nudist colony. I'm that person. So I don't care.
But see, here's the funny thing.
The majority of people are fairly ugly naked. Yeah. I'm just going to be honest here.
But see, the funny thing,
it would be really cool, and it would not be.
Right. But the funny thing about it too is like to kind of get back to like what we were about the difference between guys and about men and women. Yeah. Like if you lived in a nudist colony, I don't know this for sure, but I'm putting myself in Rob's shoes.
Yeah.
Like I would have a problem living in a nudist colony.
Yeah, that's Rob.
Not because of me, but because if my wife's going to be naked around a bunch of other men, I'm like, nah, I don't think so. Right. Like that's no, you're not allowed to see that. That's only for me to see, you know? So,
right.
Yeah, exactly. So
anyway. Yeah. So let's my thing is, I mean, originally the garden we were naked, so I don't know.
Yeah. Right. But that was before sin. I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of think that kind of the sexual awakening and the way that men are visual. Mm-hmm. I think that's when that started, was after the fall.
Interesting.
You know, because I don't think necessarily that. I mean, well, it's hard to say because obviously Adam would need to be attracted to Eve in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, for them to procreate and everything else. So, but yeah, I don't think it was at the level it's at now. Maybe
no,
it's
definitely
one
not.
Of those like God made it as a thing of beauty, and then man perverted it once he, you know, fell and all that.
Well, he could, because that's what we do now.
Yeah, we're good at it. Right, exactly. So, oh man. All right, where do you want to go next? You said you had some stuff, so what do you want to?
Oh, not in politics.
Oh, okay, spiritual stuff is right.
No, that's not. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I guess the other thing, I don't know if Rob mentioned this. So, like, as far as like the government policing things, you know, what was it before COVID? I don't remember when it was. When the whole like when gay marriage was officially like allowed in the U.S. and stuff, and the left celebrated the whole thing, love wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the right was like, the world is going to hell.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I was like, maybe the government just needs to step out of marriage.
And I would actually agree with you, because I don't think that my Christianity needs necessarily to be in the government. I don't think.
Yeah.
I support, and I know this kind of makes a lot of Christians mad, but I think as far as gay marriage, okay, so it's twofold for me. Like I can on one hand say that I believe biblically God designed marriage to be between one man and one woman, right? I think that is solid fact. That's what God wants. But then you ask me, but Ryan, do you think the government should allow two men to get married or two women to get married? I would say, yeah. I do, because I don't think the government should be a Christian entity necessarily.
Right.
We are in a country of freedom of religion, freedom of belief, freedom of sexuality, all those kinds of things.
Right.
Then yes. So, I mean, do I think it's right? So it's two different questions to say, right?
Yes.
Do you think it's right for them to get married, or do you think it should be allowed for them to get married?
Right.
That's two different questions. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
it's I'm realizing more and more that the enemy likes to just take the things that God has made good and just tweak with it, you know?
Yep.
And that's just the world we live in now. So, you know, when the kids are dealing with, and it, you know, across it more than I do, mainly probably because I ran away from social media. Honestly, God is,
that's probably a good decision.
No, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the kids deal with it more than I do. And to see, the rainbow flag being paraded so blatantly anti-God, it's like, you don't understand. God created that rainbow.
Yeah.
And it means something so much different than you think it does.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean,
that was God saying he's not going to declare war on you guys. Like, I don't know.
Right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Sure you want to wave that around in his face?
Yeah.
You might remind him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Know, that and so yeah, it's baby, I was born this way. And we were all born sinners.
Yeah, see?
Yes, you were. You really were, and I'm so sorry.
And that's why that's a debate, right, that I get that Christians will have with me sometimes, and they'll say, Ryan, nobody who's gay was born gay. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that maybe, I mean, it's no different than somebody, we all have sinful leanings, right? We all struggle with different things. And I've seen many times, debates between two gay men, one who is both who are professing Christians, one who says that God is okay with his lifestyle of being married to a man, being sexually involved with another man. And the other guy who's debating him is married to a woman.
Right.
But he will still say, I'm still sexually attracted to men. So he is gay. He is gay in his identity, or at least bisexual, because I assume he's also attracted to his wife.
Right.
But it's not like he's saying, I became a Christian and now all of a sudden I don't have desires for men anymore.
Right.
That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, I'm choosing not to give into that desire because I know it's sinful. No different than me as a married man not giving into a desire I might have. I think a coworker's attractive, and let's say she's flirting with me and she says, hey, let's meet up later or something. Right. Like I could say, okay.
Exactly.
Or I can say, no, that's not what God wants, and I don't want to destroy my family. So not going to happen, So So I'm with you on that for sure. I think that's what you were saying. You agree. Yeah, they might be born with that sinful.
It's like, yes, we are all born wretched.
Right. But then the argument comes in and say, well, how dare you say that's a wretched thing? See, that's where the argument starts, because
I was born wretched.
Yeah, right. Yes, but in a different way.
You don't understand. Yeah. I was born wretched.
But they would say, well, yes, but me being born gay, you're assuming that that's a bad thing, or that that's something that's sinful, and that's where they struggle.
Make the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've used that one many times too. Be like, hey, I didn't write the book. God did. Take it up with him.
Right. Right.
I'm just telling you. I think the first time I ever heard that was, I think Kirk Cameron was on like I forgot whose show it was, some secular show or something. Of course, whenever they get a Christian on there, that's what they want to ask.
Exactly.
So how do you feel about gay people?
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, really? Right out the gate. So how do you feel about gay marriage? And he's like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
But he's like, look, I love them just fine, but if you're asking me if I think gay marriage is of God, the answer is no, because I believe in the Bible.
Right.
And that's what God said. I didn't make it up.
Right.
I didn't just come up with
like the rules I made up.
Exactly. So yeah,
my
for
rules
sure.
would not be any better.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hop into some God stuff, since we've already kind of started going there anyway.
Cool. Cool.
So first of all, I don't think I've ever heard this story, so I'd like to hear kind of how you came to the faith to begin with.
Cool. Okay, so like I said, my mom was very open to just letting me discover whatever I wanted to. We had a number of, so my dad passed away when I was 8.
Oh my gosh.
He was an alcoholic. He died of, I think it was kidney or liver failure. It was probably liver failure. And my mom was they were separated. They were, had he not died, there would have been a divorce.
Okay. And you were adopted, correct?
I was.
Okay, so I didn't know that about you. Yeah.
So I was teeny tiny baby when I was adopted. I've only known the parents that on this side of the ocean.
Right. Still to this day, you've never contacted your
never met them.
Parents.
Not completely interested in it. If they reached out and was like, "Hey, you're our adopted daughter," I'd be like, "Cool, let's meet." But
do you know where they are though? Like, do you know who they are?
I'm just assuming they're still in Korea, but I have no idea who they are.
Okay.
I kind of know the story behind it, and that was all I needed to know to be like, oh, okay. So, they had met, and he was married to somebody else, and they had an affair, and I was born of that. And instead of getting rid of me or, they aborting me, they he actually funded her to have the baby and put me up for adoption and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just very thankful to them for that.
I was going to say, thank God for that, right?
Yeah, in Korea, it's so much more taboo than in the United States. In the United States, it's still taboo, even today. But in Korea, so much more. So, for them to do that was incredible.
Yeah.
Then I came over here, was adopted. I was like 4 months old when I got over here. Mm-hmm. So I'm Californian. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not
You're not Korean. You're Californian. Yeah.
Like I think I have more pride in the U.S. than most U.S. citizens because I don't have like I'm Scottish and Irish too. Like,
right. Yeah.
I look Korean, but like all I got going for me.
Yeah.
So and my mom, we had a lot of people who had their faiths come alongside my family while they went through the process of my dad being an alcoholic and coming home with problems, through the possibility of divorce, through the death of my dad, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so we had one family and they were Lutheran, and every so often we would just kind of go to church with them, or I would go to church with them. And it was only like once every 3 or 4 months or something, and then we had a Mormon family that was just very loving to our family. And I guess my dad is what's called a Jack Mormon. Anyways, his family was Mormon. He is on their, genealogy lists as being Mormon, was never practicing, was never like actually Mormon. But
he was probably baptized when he was younger, so that means he's part of the church. I have no idea
how any of that works. Yeah. Like, I don't know. But I do know that because of that, they never knocked on our doors. So, right? But
it's a nice bonus.
Exactly. But it also meant that we did have a Mormon family, and they're incredible, and I love them. And they were very involved in our life. Okay. And if Mormons are incredible at doing that family thing, and so and helping their community and all that kind of stuff. So
that's true.
And then I met so I would say my Girl Scout family, they solid Christians, a lot of them were, but I didn't exactly know what any of that meant. Like,
sure,
just I just knew they went to church on Sundays and stuff. Like, oh, cool.
You're about how old at that time?
This was 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade, along those lines.
Okay.
And then junior high, I met a boy, and this is how the story always goes. I met a boy. And he was Christian. And so it was like, you need to know this Jesus thing. It was like, okay, cool. Yeah. And like I said, I take on the personalities of other people.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I'll get to know this Christian thing. And it was, sure, I'll wear the cross and, we'll go to church sometimes and cool.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend. So we had Rob, I met in high school.
Okay.
And a lot of the junior high kids that I went to junior high with also followed through high school. And there were probably 2 people who were most influential on me finding Jesus for the first time. Mm-hmm. And that was Rob. Okay. And then my friend Lauren, who has probably fallen away from the faith. Her family situation was not good.
Okay.
But she would take me to church regularly. And the first time I was really like, this Jesus thing is really cool, was at a concert.
Oh, okay.
So it was some Christian local band that was playing. And they had a time of, the band doing their set, and then they just had like a worship time.
Right.
And it was a whole bunch of people my age worshiping the Lord. Mm-hmm. And this was high school.
Right.
And I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
Like, I want to know more about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sit with Rob on my stairs in high school and just like ask him questions like, what is this Jesus thing? Like,
right.
How does any of this work?
Yeah.
Why would you believe this?
Right.
Like, I knew very little about Christianity, if anything.
And were you and Rob just friends at that time? Or were you dating or?
We were back and forth. It was not healthy.
Okay. But it wasn't like you weren't just friends at that time. Like you obviously had.
We might have been at that time. I don't know. Like.
It's hard to remember way back then, huh?
Right. No, but like, no, because we were so on again, off again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we might have been just friends at that time. We could have been dating. Like, he could have been dating one of my friends, and I just, you know, I don't know. All of that happened.
Right.
So, you know, but I do know, I do remember, and chances are probably by this point, he and I were together.
Okay.
And I remember sitting on the stairs and hashing out this Jesus thing with him. And him finally going, like, really all it takes is that you declare Jesus as your Lord and Savior from your sins. And I was like, cool, done.
You're like, oh, that's it? Oh, wow.
And that was, I still say that was the day that I was saved from the fiery furnace, right?
Okay.
But did I understand what Jesus as my Lord and Savior meant? No.
Right.
No, I did not. But God has a lot of grace and a lot of patience.
Okay. So that was what, you're about 14, 15 at that time, I'm guessing?
I was probably 16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, I've never been a Calvinist, but I 100% agree with the fact that there is a cage stage of Christianity.
A cage stage?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Okay. So, it's called the cage stage of Calvinism. And it basically, when you are, okay, so you know how Paul gets saved on the road to Damascus and then he disappears for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Because God has to like temper all of that.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I was in that stage.
Okay.
But I was let loose on the world.
Okay, but they call that a cage stage? I've never heard that.
Like you need to just be in a cage and not be let loose to cause
I see.
Like mass damage with your faith.
Okay, because you have so much work that needs to be done on you.
Yes, because there's so much fervor and no understanding of what you were doing.
Okay. Gotcha. Don't go out there and start sharing the truth with people when you don't really know what to share yet.
What you're sharing. Exactly.
You might be leading them the wrong direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I remember just standing up in my home. I was reading the Bible, and I was like, where do I even start? Because John was so confusing for me.
Really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah. Robert said, go start reading John. I was like, I don't understand what's happening right now. And the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God.
Yeah, that's true. The beginning of John, before it gets into like the narrative part, is kind of confusing at first.
I don't know what they're saying.
Right.
So that was not a good one for me to start on.
Yeah.
But like Mark and Matthew, pretty straightforward. Like Luke is even really straightforward. John is really not straightforward at the beginning. It's just not.
Yeah.
And so I remember standing up in front of my family and being like, I love Jesus. And if that means I have to hate my family, I will.
Woo!
I know.
Man, how'd they take that?
Not well.
Wow.
I look back on it, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I believe that God will work through all things. And I know that I did it in like as much love as I could for him. But oh, girl.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty heavy right there. That's hardcore stuff. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to church now. But to say like, wow. Wow.
Yeah, no. And it's been a struggle ever since with my family. Weird. Crazy.
Okay.
So your mom today, does she?
Nope. Not interested.
I know she doesn't believe herself, but does she think it's a good thing for you, or does she you think she wishes she wishes you would leave all that? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's upset that my kids are being taught this.
Oh, like it's a brainwashing thing almost, probably. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think because, she was like, I let you pick out your own way. Why are you not letting your kids pick their own way?
Right.
And, for me, I'm like, I was so lost. I needed someone to tell me which way to go.
Right.
Like, I've said it, like I had daddy issues. My dad died when I was 8. I had no male figure in my life. I didn't know what men were supposed to do. I didn't know what was right and what was wrong for men to do in my life. Because there was nobody to tell me. And I had my uncle who lived in the house, and he was, if you want to talk about like toxic masculinity, that was probably him.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I don't use that word often because I think it's stupid.
Yeah. Well, tell us what you really think.
Yeah, right. But I understand it. I'm just saying, I understand it. I just on the politics issue, I don't think that, there is absolutely male privilege, but it's not what people think it is. And there's absolutely female privilege, and it's also not what people think it is.
Yep.
So our genders do give us advantages sometimes.
Sure. So, right. Right.
But yeah, I don't like Kirsty just went back to go visit my mom. And we had Kirsty when I was 19.
Okay.
And so I lived in the house for a year before Robert graduated. So he was planning on graduating in 3 years already when he first went in. And so he was in his last year. I had 1 year in college, was pregnant through the last half of it, then had Kirsty in September, and Rob finished out his year starting that September. And I was like, look, I'm not getting married to you till you graduate, because if we get married right now, you will leave college to support your family.
Right.
And I'm not going to marry that. Like, you need the degree.
Right.
This will benefit our family. And when I'm in this, I am in this, and I don't want to be dealing with this 20 years down the line when you chose to not get your degree.
Right.
So, so he finished out, and then we married in June of 2003, I think. Yeah. Kirsty was 2002. No. Kirsty was 2003. We married in 2004.
Okay.
Graduated in 2002.
Yeah.
I tell you, Rob knows these dates so much better than I do.
So I know he's a little bit older than Kirsty. So yeah.
And yeah, I was saved from hellfire when I was 16 or 17. It's like, I don't even have a date. Like, people are like, oh, this is my Christian birthday. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have mine either.
And I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
I get this Jesus thing, and I want that.
Yeah. So when you say saved by hellfire, you mean that if you would have died the next day, there's no doubt in your mind that you would have been in heaven.
Correct.
Okay. Even though you didn't understand Christianity really yet, you didn't necessarily understand everything the Bible has to say, or
Right. But I knew I was a sinner, and I knew I needed a savior because I couldn't save myself. And I knew that Jesus Christ was that savior.
Gotcha.
And you know how there's all sorts of different ideas of how the Holy Spirit descends on people. Like, are you instantly Holy Spirit filled from then on out? Sometimes there's a second touching of the Holy Spirit, I had no understanding of what Jesus Christ is Lord meant, because nobody uses those words anymore. Like, what does Lord of your life even mean? What is a Lord?
Right. Right.
We use it as a name, but it's not a name. It's a title and a position of authority.
Right.
But what does that mean?
Yeah. Right.
So it took me a long time to figure out what Jesus Christ is Lord of my life means. And that was a long process, and it's just been refining ever since. But when I got pregnant with Kirsty, I was in college, and I found out through like the college health building or whatever, when it was just like, it went in and it was like, I have student insurance, and I need a pregnancy test. And she goes, "You are pregnant. You don't have to make a decision right now, but please let me know what you want to do." And I went home. And that was the moment where God was like, "Listen, you call me Lord of your life, but you're not acting like it. I need you to put up or shut up." Like,
nice.
Act like it or don't. This is your decision right now. And it was keep the baby and act like it, or don't keep the baby and get out. And so I started like looking up. I was so oblivious to my body. And this is why I'm like, with my girls, I really just want them to understand what they're going through physically. Because I got pregnant probably in December, did not know until like the end of February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I had just no concept. I didn't track anything. I didn't understand. Like, I was just knew that I was feeling nauseous, but I just assumed it was like bad dining commons food for like months. Like I went through almost the entire first trimester oblivious that I was pregnant.
How funny.
And so she was like 12 weeks, 13 weeks or something by the time I found out I was going to have her.
Okay.
So I'm looking up like the development stage she's at that point. I didn't know it was a she. I was looking up the development stage of the bean. And it's like, oh, they're the size of a kiwi, and or their heart's doing this and their lungs are doing that. Thank you, Google, for being able to give me this information, because there was no doubt in my mind that this was a human.
Right.
Right. Before I could look it up, like when I was just thinking about it, I was like, well, if I don't tell Rob that I'm pregnant, he doesn't have to know that I get an abortion. Like, and that's not going to be an issue.
So that was somewhat on the table.
Oh, that was on the table. That was absolutely on the table. I was in my first year of college.
Right.
Like, so before ever being able to look up what this meant, it was like, it was just a problem that needed solving, and abortion was one solution to solve this problem. And it was the easier option, because if I did that, then my life didn't have to change.
Sure.
Like I could keep on going to college. Yeah. Right. I could keep on going to college. But I knew that the Christian stance was that abortion was wrong. And I had said I wouldn't get an abortion, but I wouldn't stop somebody else from doing it.
Right.
And this is where God was like, put up or shut up. You can't keep on saying it. You have to mean it.
Right.
And so, so I Googled up life stages and thank you what to expect when you're expecting websites that, gave you all the information of, the fetal development, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, this really is a baby. And this has been a baby from the beginning.
So just out of curiosity, though, like, let's say you found out a couple weeks in and the baby wasn't as big and didn't have working lungs and that kind of thing, like you just described. Right. Do you think you would have been more likely to get an abortion?
You're going to be really hard pressed to catch your pregnancy by that point.
Right.
Like,
well, I guess any point, like, because 12 weeks is late to find out you're pregnant is the point.
Oh yeah, super late.
But like if it was the normal time that women find out.
Let's fast forward to Josie. We were, Ben was 5 years old when we found out about her. I think he was 5. No, he was probably 4 years old when we found out about her. I found out real early on. It was Taco Tuesday and it made me sick to smell it. I was like, I'm pregnant.
Oh no. You missed out on Taco Tuesday.
Right? Like, I knew, right? Because I love Taco Tuesday and I was like, I couldn't smell it. It made me sick. Oh. I was like, I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And we caught that early.
And this was with which one?
She was Josie.
Okay, that's the baby, right?
This is the baby.
That's the youngest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't do this again. I can't.
Right.
Like, because Ben, we were going through all of the like, oh, this is the last time we're going to do this. And this is the last time we're going to do that. Like with Ben.
Right.
And he was in kindergarten. He was finishing up preschool. He was going into kindergarten. And it was like new stage of our life. One door closing, another door opening, which is not biblical. But anyways, that's what it felt like. So,
oh, love it.
Right? I'm just saying.
No, you're right.
So that was what it felt like. And to go, I have to start all over again. We'd given away everything. We didn't have any baby stuff left.
Yeah.
Nothing. As he was going out of the stages, I was like, freedom at last, finally. I was done.
Yeah.
And then we got pregnant and I was like, I can't do this.
Right.
Like, God, I can't do this.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to find out if it has a heartbeat. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, I'm ending this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
And I went in and there was that little heart fluttering.
Mm.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a struggle. That pregnancy sucked. Not because it was a bad pregnancy, because it wasn't. The pregnancy was fine, because God knew I was going through other things. Like I didn't need to be throwing up every day.
Right.
On top of, but that was probably some of the darkest times I've gone through.
Okay.
Because I was like, it's okay, because it's the same denial I went through moving to Texas.
Right.
I was packing the house going, it's okay. We're going to be unpacking the house soon because we're not moving to Texas. I'm like driving through Arizona with my mother-in-law in the passenger seat going, it's okay. We're going to turn around. We're not moving to Texas.
Wow. Up in denial up to the last second. Huh?
Right. I was like, because God loves me more than he loves my husband.
Oh, man.
Like it's kind of like that, right? But with Josie, it was her life.
Yeah.
Right. And I had these moments where I was like, God, you could just end her life and she could just be with you and I wouldn't have to do this.
Right.
Why haven't you done that yet?
Right.
And I was like that until I had her. And it was 9 months because we found out early that we were having a baby. Mm-hmm. And everybody's so happy for the Hamiltons. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you guys. Another baby. That's so incredible. Yeah. And I'm just dying a little every time they say it. Like, you guys don't understand. I don't want this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this again. I can't start over again.
Right.
And it was like that through most of it. And I think some of the hardest conversations were with people who couldn't have kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
Right. Well, it's not even that. It was, you can't have kids and you're struggling. I can have kids and I'm still allowed to struggle.
Right.
Like, because there's this mentality that says, well, you can have what I don't. Well, you can have want. So you need to be thankful.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you have what I want.
Right, exactly.
So
right. At that point in your life, anyway, you already had the 4 other kids and you're like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, you have an inability to have kids. That would be great right now.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And it's all God refining us.
Yeah.
Like it's all God getting glory through our struggles and God getting glory in our weakness.
Right.
But man, it sucked.
Right.
And as you can tell, it's still a hard spot for me.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Like, and when Josie came out, I was talking to a friend. I was like, I don't want her to be affected by the fact that I wish to death upon my child.
Right.
Like, how is that going to affect her?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she doesn't have to know that.
But I mean, words have an interesting power over people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I held her, and oh, her labor and delivery was so different. Okay, I had Kirsty with an epidural.
Okay.
I had Jacob and Mary and Ben naturally.
Okay.
I had Jacob and Mary were over at French. Like
in St. Louis, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then Ben was up in San Jose at a very high-tech, like, hospital. And I walked in the door. It was like shift change. And I'm like in my 30s, right? And up in the Bay Area, that's where everybody starts their family, if they have a family.
Right.
Like at all.
Right.
And so I walk in the door at shift change, and they're like, oh, here's your room, honey. We'll just be back for you. And they're all, getting all their shift change stuff done. And finally, like an hour later, after we've just been laboring, the nurse comes in and is like, oh, how are we feeling? This is number 1. I was like, this is number 4. She's like, oh.
Yeah.
Throws the glove on, checks. She's like, oh, we're going to call the doctor now.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
The doctor's like, okay, I'm going to need you to like turn on your back. It's like, I'm delivering on my side. He's like, no, you're not. I was like, watch me.
You're like, hey, I've done this before. Okay.
Yeah.
Buddy? Yeah. In fact, just get out. I'll let my husband catch. He can do it. Get out of here.
Basically, right? I was like, I know how to catch it myself. I can squat. What do you need? Like I don't need you. So, but the thing is, he came so fast that the doctor couldn't do anything but just catch him. Yeah. Because it's baby number 4.
Yeah.
Like, good luck.
Yep.
So, and so that's what I was like, okay, at least I can do this labor and delivery thing. I've done this before. I know I can do it. Like, let's go. My water broke early, and because Jacob had the spinal meningitis as a baby.
Oh, shoot.
You knew that. Okay. You knew.
I think I did know that, but I forgot.
Did. Yeah. So we were in the hospital with him for like a month and a half because he had group B strep and spinal meningitis.
Okay.
And it came back a second time. So because of that, no midwife would deliver at home. They're like, you have had like a high risk, and so we are not going to do that again away from a hospital.
Right.
And so we just delivered in hospitals from then on out. And it's fine. It is what it is. And so with Josie, I was like, it's okay. We've done this. I know what I'm doing now. So I can have her, and the labor and delivery is going to be fine. And water broke. So I had to go to the hospital, and they're like, well, because you've had one that had, spinal meningitis, group B strep, we have to induce. Like, we're not going to let you just sit on this just in case.
Sure.
And so they induced, and the induction it sucks.
Yeah.
So normally it's, it slowly waves upwards, but with induction, it's just straight. Like every contraction is like the final contraction, but you're like hours out.
Yeah.
So
terrible.
And Kirsty was in the room with us, and I was like, I got to the point where I was like, I need to get out of my body. Like, I can't be in this body anymore.
Right. Right.
But we delivered her, and Kirsty was like the first person to hold her, which was like really incredible.
And she was how old at that point? She was what?
Kirsty, let's see. Well, it was 7
14?
years ago. And
15?
Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah, it was probably 14 because she's a September birthday, and she was probably 13, going to be 14 later that month.
Okay.
So yeah,
she's 20 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we held her, and Josie was just the most amazing thing ever after that.
Right.
And then Josie got older.
Oh man.
She is the firstborn, the lastborn, and the only child, all wrapped up into one child.
Yeah. So she the hardest for you as far as?
Oh yeah.
By far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like yesterday, we were at Jacob's final winter concert. And it's funny because it's like everything is his final now, right? Because he's a senior. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this is our final first band concert. This is our final mm-hmm. Pennington. This is our like it's just everything's our final. Mm-hmm. But this is the last winter concert that he's going to perform as a high schooler. And we showed up when there were 3 bands. He's the final band, and we showed up when the second band was going on. Okay. Which meant Josie could do really whatever she wanted because I didn't need. She could have my attention. It was fine. Sure. But I did tell her when Jacob's band goes on, it is Jacob's time and not yours. Mm. And she goes, okay, except for when Jacob's band went on. And then everything, she's tapping. Can I have your phone? Can I have that? I want to take pictures, mommy. And she's like rolling around in the chair and like, and then I'm not paying attention to her. I'm just ignoring her. And I'm paying attention to the band. And I hear, and I was like, stop it! Stop it! I turn around, I was like, stop clearing your nose like that. She's like, and I'm like, stop.
Oh, no.
I'm just clearing my nose.
Oh, boy.
And this is her. Like,
wow.
I don't know if she knows that she's like that.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know if she's purposefully like that. I don't, but just she has to have the spotlight at all times. And I was like, you don't get the spotlight. You are one of 5.
Yeah.
Like, your other siblings deserve my attention just as much as you do.
Well, I think that's pretty common though for the youngest, just because they're born into such a busy atmosphere. You know, they have all these older siblings, everything's going on with them and this. And so it's like from the early on, it's like
everywhere.
Yeah, I need some attention. I need somebody to pay attention to me.
Yes.
Wow.
She had this time where she would just cry about how Kirsty got so much time with me with nobody else in the home when she was a 2-year-old.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like, Jocelyn, when you are a 14-year-old, you will have all the time in the world with us.
Right.
No other child is going to get that.
Right. I think, if I remember correctly, I think that's about the time we came in to the pictures when Kirsty had to have been like a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, probably.
Is that about right? When you guys started going to Calvary?
Yeah, we had Jacob when like over there. Yeah, so like Kirsty was tiny.
Yeah, because I think
doing puggles and stuff.
Yeah,
crying in the nursery.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if you were pregnant when we met you with Jacob, or if you got pregnant after we knew you. But I know you hadn't had him yet when we first met you guys. So
yeah, I think. I mean, we showed up and she was little. I was not pregnant until we moved to the house. Mm-hmm. So we had to have known you guys before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So there's a couple I've been kind of making notes here as you've been talking.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to some of the worship stuff because that's like I said, that's something I haven't gotten to talk about. And I have some I don't know. I guess I'm kind of I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic.
I know you are. I was very interested to talk to you about this topic.
Yes. Well, let's start with that then before we even get into some other stuff. Let's start with that because that'll kind of open up some other doors, I guess, as far as like spiritual experience and that kind of thing. So I guess let's start with you kind of as a worship leader. You know, that's beyond somebody who's just in the band or somebody who's singing. I mean, you're a worship leader. There's a reason why it's called that. So, I mean, what is your outlook of that role? Like, as you get up there every Sunday morning, what is kind of the goal and the outcome?
So, for individual Sunday mornings, my goal is that God will use the preparation we've made throughout the week, the practices and the talents that he's already gifted each individual person with to use for his glory, to lead his people to worship him with all their heart and all their soul and all their mind.
Okay. Now, what does even that mean?
So
like break that down.
So
for
like
me.
music is not worship. Right. Playing music, singing music, even playing and singing like Christian music or playing and singing songs that are deemed worship music. It is not worship. That is not what worship is.
Okay.
It is a heart posture that says God above me, his glory above all else, and everything.
Right.
And I think we are created as musical beings. Not all people have a lot of music in their soul and stuff, but you know, all throughout the Bible, people just break out into spontaneous song to the Lord.
It's like a musical.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, but a good one.
Yeah.
I struggle because I'll read and then Miriam, you know, led the women in a worship in a song of praise, and I was like, none of this rhymes. I can't I don't know.
You're like, come on, people.
Right? Pull it together, you guys.
Yeah. So, like, this can't be inspired of God. There's no rhyming in it.
Know, right? But I think music also, I think that there is just something incredible about how it can help focus us. It can help with our memory. You know, the old church would just use music in order to just convey messages, you know, because there was no speakers, you know, we couldn't hear what the pastor was saying, but we knew that when the notes went like this, that we were doing something else. And when the notes went like that, we were doing something else. Right. And it was cues and all that kind of stuff. But I think that I've been playing music and doing the music thing almost all my life. I started playing flute in 4th grade. I know how to read sheet music. I know choral music. You know, I did choir in high school and all of that kind of stuff. Musical theater. Music has always been a part of my life. So the music thing I could do easy. Like I have a fair ear for production value. I know what I want. I know how to achieve a lot of different things that I want to be able to hear as far as making music sound the way I want it to sound.
Yeah.
The worship leading part is new. So new.
Okay. How new? Like when did you start doing that?
I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, but it feels like last year. Like,
okay.
I have to ask Robert and my co-leader. I call her my co-leader. She's the one that gave me this shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So so basically what happened in our church, one, I do want to just say the Nazarene denomination, which is the church that we're at, we don't exactly consider ourselves Nazarene. It was very new to me when we moved out here, coming from very non-denominational kinds of churches, you know, that were, you know, on the Bible only, you know, solid churches, but didn't exactly have like, you know, a board with another board on top of them, with another board on top of them, you know, district supervisors and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so we came in and we learned what the Nazarene denomination was all about. And there were some things in it that we were like, yeah, that's exactly what we believe. And there were some things in it that we went, yeah, okay, but are you sure?
Yeah.
There were some things that we were very neutral about. And, you know, but the church body that we went, this specific church body was the one that called to me first. And then to Rob, because when we showed up, now here's the thing, I am not a huge crier, and you would not know that from listening to this podcast right now. But I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not a big crier.
Right.
But we like I said, we moved to Texas and I was like, I am not moving to Texas. Like Robert is taking me to Texas. And this is why Hadestown spoke so much to me. I've always told Robert, I will go wherever you take me. I will always follow you.
Yeah.
Like now I will not do it happily sometimes.
Sure.
But I will.
Right.
Like that is because in these gender roles, that is my job.
Right.
Right. I will argue with you to the ground that we shouldn't do it. But when you make the decision and you say we are going that way, I will say, okay. So we left for Texas. We show up at Texas. I don't want to be in Texas. I don't want to find a new church body. I loved my church family up in San Jose. They were incredible people.
Yeah.
The growth that we had as a family, the support that we had, the ministries that we were involved in, all of that. Like, I did not want to have to leave that.
Sure.
We get to this new church and we literally, thank you, Google, once again. We Googled churches while we were in San Jose because Rob came home in September and was like, I am interviewing for a job. If I get it, we're moving in October.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize it was that sudden.
It was ridiculous.
Wow.
And so by the end of October, we celebrated our first Halloween here in Texas.
Yeah.
And it was so much change so fast. And anyways, but when he got the job, he started Googling churches out in Texas, out in the area that we were going to move into. And he had a short list, and the church that we visited was like just first on the short list because it was just the closest to the house that we were moving into. And it looked very non-denominational.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, the statement of faith was a very solid statement of faith. There wasn't anything weird in it. And so we're like, okay, that's the first one we're going to try. Let's go try this church. We show up and it's empty. We can smell food and we can hear the worship team practicing, but it's empty. There's nobody, no greeting, no kids, no nothing.
Were you guys like 2 hours early or what?
No, we were on time, but they were having their Thanksgiving potluck that day.
Oh.
And so everybody was in the back getting ready.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And we were just standing in the lobby like, do we leave? Do we stay? On the building, before you walk in the door, is a little like Nazarene like plaque or whatever, like probably when the building was first opened and they were given this plaque and it's like Church of the Nazarene, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, oh, it is a denomination. Well, we're already here.
And the food smells good.
Right? I guess we'll stay for this Sunday.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. So we go in, the pastor's wife is like busy. She's like walking back. And so finally she comes from the kitchen. She walks to the sanctuary. She like double takes. She goes, hi.
She's like, hey, there's new people here. Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, hi, this is our church. Welcome. And mind you, we're a family with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Like at this time, we have 4 kids. We walked in. Ben is tiny still.
Right. Right.
We get in there and sit down, and they have just recently hired a new worship leader on, and he and his family have come in. It's him, his wife, and then they have 3 kids. 2 twins who are the oldest girls, and then a boy under that. And the twins are just a year older than Kirsty, and the boy is approximately Jacob's age.
Oh, perfect.
And they start worship, and they are literally singing all of the songs that are like, these are my songs.
Oh,
these are my hillside songs.
Right.
Like these are my songs from San Jose.
Yeah.
And then the tears. And I'm just bawling into the whole worship set.
Oh, no. He's like, Amie, we're new here. Knock it off.
Another woman. And all I can think in my head is they can literally see me because we're one of like 3 families right now.
Oh, no.
And all I'm doing is just crying.
Yeah.
He felt like God is saying, you have a home.
Right.
Like, I'm not just over at Hillside. I'm not just over at Calvary. I'm not just over at the harbor. Like,
right.
I'm everywhere. You have a home.
Yeah.
And the pastor's wife afterwards comes over. She was in it because nobody had any idea why I was crying so hard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and Rob was not at the place where he's like, yeah, this is what I want to call home yet.
Right.
And I'm like, I've found a new home. And there's so many conflicting emotions, because then it's like I feel like I'm cheating on like my other church.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because we willfully left the other churches, like knowing that we were going to go find a new home. And for me to end up in Texas, I felt like I was unwillfully ripped from my home church.
Sure. Yeah.
And so,
in a sense, you were the one at that moment that God needed to reach, because Rob was already on board with moving to Texas. He had made the decision. He was at peace with it. You were the one that was kind of like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. I'll follow you.
Here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll go. But
as soon as a position opens up in San Jose, we're moving back. Right.
Right. Exactly. Right. So the Lord had to show you, no, this is where I want you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we went and we ate potluck with all of them and fellowshiped with them. And that was basically like, and we remember that anniversary because it was church potluck. It's just Thanksgiving church potluck. Yeah. And that was our anniversary with the worship leader and his family. And it was him and his wife were a team.
Okay.
When they came in. And they had come from Mexico and were up here, and they were incredible. They really were.
Yeah.
They still are. That's not like they're still
they used to be. They used to be incredible.
I know, right?
Now they're just
now
incredible.
I don't know about it. No, they're still great.
Okay. Do they still go to the church?
No, they do not.
Okay. So they stepped down. Is that when you started leading worship?
We're getting
Okay.
We had a pastoral change.
Mm-hmm.
And then things just started kind of shift in the church. And after the pastoral change, and that was the pastor who brought this team in the first place. Mm-hmm. After that, they stayed on for a little bit longer, and then they headed out too. And we had kind of always said that when they left, we probably wouldn't be there either, because we're not Nazarenes.
Right.
Like, we're not married to it,
Right.
But God had other plans. And the pastor that came in was just multifaceted, but he also led worship. He came from a smaller church. So he was the one that led worship over at his church, along with preaching and teaching. Mm-hmm. And so my friend Laura, who has been on worship teams for years prior to, was like, we need a support structure for pastor. He can't do all of this on his own.
Right.
And so when the other worship leader stepped down, they went through a process of trying to find somebody else and just couldn't find anybody that was vibing. We had one guy come in for one Sunday just to see what was happening. And he literally was like, every morning I pray to God for money and for something. And I'm going to just lead you guys through that prayer right now.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, you need to not be here.
See,
maybe there's a place for you, but this is not it.
I couldn't handle that. I would have stood up in the middle of the thing and be like, no, sorry, buddy. Here's a Bible. Read it.
So
see you later.
Funny because the pastor wasn't there that Sunday to review it. I don't know what was going on. I just know that he wasn't there to hear it. And when he came back, I was like, listen.
Yeah.
that he can't. No, this is not good.
Wow.
And so my friend Laura was like, she plays guitar, her husband plays bass, and they play everything. Laura does everything. She's incredible.
Wow.
Like she picked up accordion for a while. She does everything.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, right? And so she was like, look, we need a support structure because pastor can't run everything. It's not fair to make him do all of this.
Right.
And I was like, I can sing. Like, I can't play any of these worship instruments. I could pick up a French horn, but you don't want me to do that.
Right. Right.
So I was like, I can sing. And she's like, great, done. You're going to help sing. She's playing guitar. Her husband's playing bass. I don't even remember who we had playing drums. We had kids playing drums.
Nice.
Right?
That's awesome.
It was very makeshift thrown together, but it was fine. And then she was like, listen, everybody needs to learn a second instrument. And it was like, yeah, that's pretty wise. Like, that's a pretty wise decision right there. And so I was like, okay, I am going to attempt guitar because I've been trying to learn guitar my whole life and it never clicked. And I could get like 2 chords and then my brain just couldn't handle it after that. I was like, okay, I will try guitar. And I pick up the guitar and I could play it. And I was like, okay, that's a God thing.
You just could play it?
I could play it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
no practice, no nothing, just picked it up and you're Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no. Okay, once again, like I said before, 4 chords. That's all you need.
Right.
4 chords and a capo. But all of the things that would trip me up trying to learn it were gone. And I could be like, oh, this chord, got it. Boom, that chord, got it. My fingers could just do it after that. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm playing guitar now.
Yeah.
And playing guitar and singing clicked faster than it probably does for some people.
Yeah.
But like I said, all of these things were just my brain was already musically inclined. And so putting the things together clicked faster than other people normally would. Rob probably could not do that.
Right.
But because I dabbled in so much before, putting the pieces together was easier for me.
Right.
And then it started getting to the point where I had a better ear for putting the music together than Laura did. And I had a more solid voice than she did.
Okay.
And she's like, you can sing better. You get in the front. Like, I don't want to be singing anymore.
Which is a unique experience because of the nature of mankind. Normally, even if that is a true scenario, the person who's already in front is like, nope, this is my position. I'm the leader. Get out of my face, to where she realized, okay, you can do better than me. Let's put you in front. Right. Okay.
Right.
So to her credit, that's a good
she's
thing.
incredible. I adore her. If you met her, you would love her.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you should get her on here.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously. She is Dr. P.A. Laura Solano.
Okay. Well, hey, tell you what, you said you mentioned it to her and set it up and I'll do it.
Absolutely. You would just get a kick out of her. She's awesome.
So let's get into I want to kind of talk about the idea of, like you already mentioned in the beginning, like worship is not music.
Yeah.
But you would say that you can worship the Lord through music, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like you said, catalyst. But like you said, it's like a heart response. It's like you, submission. You're bowing down in submission and reverence to the God of all the universe, whether that's through song, whether it's through study, whether it's through whatever the Lord has you doing. Really, our whole life should be a worship to God.
Yeah.
So when we get into kind of the modern day, what we would call a worship service, right? Because when most people say worship, they don't mean what you and I mean. They mean singing, right? Or we're going to go worship the Lord. We're going to go sing some songs.
Yeah.
So like I personally, and again, this is me just being open and honest. And this might be even a struggle that I have that needs to be worked out in my own heart. I could be totally off here, but like when I see there's the worship postures, right? There's certain, I always call it, there's the 3 main kind of things, right? You got either the person that's kind of got the one hand up like this. Yeah. You got the person who's kind of got both hands out in front of them, open palm, like they're, kind of like open towards the heaven. And then you got the people that are got both hands up in the air. Now there's variations of all of that, but that seems to be the prominent 3, right? That almost every church I've ever been in, that tends to be, unless you're in a Baptist church when they're not doing anything.
I was like, oh no, you should see my church. That's hands down by their sides, staring blankly at you. Yeah,
okay,
great.
All right. So there you go. But so, I mean, that's kind of the general thing. So, I mean, like kind of
Which, first of all, I have no problem with that at all. And the reason why I don't have a problem with that is because what I do have a problem with is people that are doing things that are extremely distracting to the rest of the people in the congregation. Like if I'm in worship, let's just say I'm really connected with the Lord through whatever the song's saying. I'm not a posture guy, so I'm not doing any of those three I just said. But like I'm in the spirit, I'm feeling very connected to the Lord. I'm pouring out my heart to him in song, and I'm really connected and focused on God. And then the guy next to me just either yells really loud, or he, maybe starts doing some weird, goofy thing with his body. And all of a sudden I'm like, shunk, right? Like I'm just I'm yanked out of that communion with God. And now my focus is this guy over here, or this lady over here, or whatever it is. So that's always my biggest beef. And I'm like, why do you do that?
So you're not a banner waver, tambourine tapper then?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I'm going to kind of
judging you.
You should. I'm going to kind of vomit a bunch of stuff out, and then we'll go back to kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But so then there's that kind of thing, which I feel like, yes, there's that, and it's a distraction. But in most churches I've been to, let's say the pastor goes up to that person and says, hey, we've had some complaints that what you're doing is distracting to the other congregation. I've never heard anybody say in that situation, oh, really? Oh, I'm so sorry, I'll stop. Almost every time that's the way I worship the Lord. The Lord is calling me to worship this way. You can't tell me how to worship the Lord. Right. That's usually, and sometimes they'll leave the church over it. And this is big ordeal, so you get back to those three postures I mentioned. And the reason I'm okay with those, even though I personally don't feel led to do that, is because it's quiet and it's not distracting. Right. So there's that. And then the last aspect I'm going to say, well, not the last one, but before I let you kind of answer these questions that I haven't even asked yet.
Like what questions?
I've also noticed this in kind of my observation, and people say, Ryan, why are you focused on all that? You should be focused on the Lord. Well, I just am. It's just who I am. So I'm observing that as certain songs, like Waymaker is a good example, right? As the song builds, by the time it gets to the end, it's just very like it's building. The song is building in sound, in volume, in power. And you notice that songs like that, as they get towards the end, you see the most people got them both up, like towards the end of the song.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's like, so my struggle with all of that is, and this is where I kind of want your viewpoint, is I understand most of the people doing that would say, no, it's the Lord moving on my spirit. It's the Lord moving on me to do this. And maybe they're right. I don't know.
Right.
But it's hard for me to grasp that when so many people are doing the same thing, first of all. And secondly, when that emotional buildup in the song is getting to a certain point where that becomes more prominent, that tells me a lot of that is emotion involved. No different than when I listen to Metallica and you get to the end of Enter Sandman, where it's like, oh, and I'm like,
it's rocking out.
Yeah. And I notice when I'm driving, I notice that all of a sudden I'm going 85 miles an hour. And it's like, dude,
what? It's kind of legal over in Texas, so I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But here it's not, and I see lights behind me. It's like, dude, listen, officer, it was Enter Sandman. Okay,
I know,
that's
right?
all I gotta say.
No, you can forgive him.
Enter Sandman. So anyway, like, what are your kind of thoughts on that as being on the other side as you're watching?
Yeah, so
kind of that unfold.
Okay, so like I was saying, I am I'm in tune with the production value of what music is capable of doing. Which is one of the reasons why some of the bands I like is based off of the production value of what they have, what they offer. We have a really sweet woman in our church who every time she really enjoys a set, she talks about how the Holy Spirit was really moving. And my first thought is the band just clicked.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
No, we just vibed really well.
Yes.
But also God is in that. Like, right?
Could be.
God could create that.
Sure.
It's very humbling to have a vision of where the set's supposed to go, but no idea how it's going to get created.
Yeah. Because I understand as a worship team, I think all your hearts are in the right spot. Your whole hope is that the people would connect with God through what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's awesome and great. And I think for most of the people, they're saying, I want to come here and I want to connect with God. That's what I want to be doing. But just all that stuff alone doesn't necessarily mean God is going to do those things, right? Like from each side, he has to be the one doing that through the music, right?
Right.
So,
and worship isn't a feeling. We don't have to feel it to do it.
Yes.
It's almost more worship to do it when you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So I struggle with, maybe not as much anymore. I really did at the beginning because along the same lines as what you were saying, I know that good music moves your soul.
Right.
That's it. And it doesn't have to be God honoring or God glorifying to move a person.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a reason why people go to concerts.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
You know, good music moves people.
Right.
But also God created music.
True.
That's true. It is all throughout the heavens, you know. Maybe the angels didn't sing Gloria, but you know, we sing Gloria now.
Right.
You know, and so I struggle with saying, yes, the band clicked and that's all that is. And having the faith to say the band clicked and the Holy Spirit moved. Right. They don't have to be like. So I'm not on the Pentecostal side of things.
Sure.
Right. The more charismatic, when things start to go a little bit that way, I go, no, what are we doing? Stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Sometimes to the detriment of allowing the Spirit to actually do something.
Sure.
So I've had to kind of pull that in a little bit, but you know, the idea that somehow the Holy Spirit moved more because the set was more moving is false to me.
Right.
Like the Holy Spirit's going to do whatever the heck the Holy Spirit wants to do when the Holy Spirit wants to do it, regardless of what we're feeling, and what we're singing, and how, you know, how good the music gelled that day.
So is there a way to gauge that, or do you think we even should be gauging that? Like when you say, was the Spirit moving or was it just good music?
I don't know.
How can you tell?
So I've kind of stopped trying to figure that out. And I'm at the point where I just say, my job is to give my best to the Lord, not to the congregation.
Right.
My job is to ask the people on the stage with me to give their best to the Lord, regardless of whether there's one person in the audience or 20 people in the audience or 5,000 people out in the congregation. Our job is to worship the Lord so that the people out there can look at us and go, oh, that's how we worship. And that's the leadership. It's not how do we sing the song or how do we play the instrument.
Right.
You know.
But wouldn't that be different though, depending on the denomination that you're in, to say like how we worship? Because that whole how we worship can be totally different depending on what.
No, it's not even that. It's like, so the people, the stage is so sacred to me. Anybody in front of the congregation, I kind of hold to like the tightest standards.
Okay.
So if you are on my team, you are a worship leader. You are leading worship. I am the leader of you. You are leading the congregation.
Right.
Your life needs to reflect that. Your faith needs to reflect that. The actions every day, how you interact with people, how you interact with the congregation, how you interact with your family, that all needs to reflect that.
Right.
And so, you know, if I had a choir, it might not be like that. But anyways, we only have 15 people total. Juggle people around sometimes.
Sure.
You know, and I'm not asking for perfection. But, you definitely need to not just be doing your own thing and then, expect to be able to come on that stage and lead people.
Right.
And so for me, the stage means that your life is being looked at by other people and needs to lead them to Christ in what you're doing.
Yeah.
The music is fun. The music allows people to into some unity, right? Like yes, we're unified in listening to the word, and we're unified when we read the word, but there's something in the unity of singing together that like brings God's people into one, like a common understanding, because songs can definitely be used to teach like scriptural truths. And sometimes it is a like communal, just crying out to the Lord. Our church went through so many deaths during COVID. We are a small church.
Yeah.
Like we are a church of like 50 to 75 people.
Yeah.
We lost like 6 people.
Dang.
And it's not all because of COVID, but we lost like 6 people in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we needed to have a time where we could come together as a church and just mourn and celebrate and weep and cry out to God for guidance. And music allows you to do that.
Right.
As a group. And prayer does too, right? Where you can all gather together and pray. But really only one person's praying at a time out loud.
Right.
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 And music gives you that unity, to be able to, sing, then sings my soul, like, Savior God to thee, how great thou art.
Right.
Right. Even though our whole church is hurting.
Right.
Like, how great thou art.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to have music at the beginning, and it just helps bring that unity together so that when we're all sitting under the teaching of the Lord, like I consider worship prayer, like communal prayer to the Lord. And, if you can pray the Psalms, you can pray a worship song,
right.
And prayer isn't just about closing your eyes and bowing your head,
Sure.
And so I think our job is to, one, produce a sound that is not distracting, because, like you were saying, you can have individuals who are distracting, but if your team on the stage is not figuring themselves out together, it is distracting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would prefer to have one person just singing a song than to have a distracting stage.
Right.
But, to be able to encourage people, like sometimes songs will just bring out emotions you didn't even know you had. Right.
Sure.
And sometimes you have to really deal with those, and you have to wrestle with those with God. When you're saying words in a song, like my goal is that there will be a mind soul connection. When you're saying these words, I want you to actually like understand you're saying this.
Right.
Like,
right.
Do you mean it?
Yeah.
I want you to mean it. I don't want you to just sing along like it's your favorite hit. Like,
right.
This is a prayer to the God. You're saying that you want to honor him, and you want to bless him, and you want to glorify him.
Yeah, it's not a concert.
Start acting like it.
Right. It's not a rock concert, and a lot of times, that's why I struggle with things like some of the big worship teams that are putting out albums and all that. And I'm not saying that in and of itself.
No, like in itself, yeah.
But it's just some of the production of it is just a little too over the top to be something that's designed strictly and only for worshiping the Lord.
Right. I think some of it is seeker friendliness. So like Prestonwood is always in the news, or always on the talk for their Christmas productions.
Okay.
They are a giant megachurch out here in Dallas.
Okay.
And they're the ones, you probably saw them last year, with the drummers hanging from the ceiling, being like being flown in from the ceiling. Did you not see any of those?
No.
Okay, they are a production.
Wow.
Like, I think one year there was like a Santa flying in and stuff. Like
wow.
Their Christmas production is a production, right? But what doesn't get covered, like, and you know, that'll come out and people are like, oh, that's not Christianity. How dare they? Like, that's not my Jesus, right?
Right.
The whole point of the production is to bring the families in who would never show up to church, but they want a Christmas show, right? They want to see Santa fly in. They want to sing all the, you know, Silent Nights and all that kind of stuff, even though they don't even believe what they're singing, but it's all the Christmas traditional songs and stuff.
Right.
To bring them in to come see a production, and then the gospel gets preached. You know, so that's not for the body, right? That's not for you and me to show up and sit under the teaching of a pastor and, you know, to then go out and spread the word. That is designed to bring the unbelieved, unsaved, unreached people of the Dallas area into a church where they would have probably never stepped before.
Right.
To come see a production that is incredibly well done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the gospel gets preached at them.
Right. And do you do you see that? Because there's different sides that people would take with that concept. And I think that's probably the people you're talking about that are like, that's not Christian. That's not what we should be doing. Because, you know, there's two sides to it. There's basically saying, okay, look, these people will never come into the church any other way. They're coming for another reason. And then the byproduct is they're hearing the gospel, or they're potentially meeting Jesus. And, you know, it's kind of one of those, I guess I don't really know where I stand on it, because it depends on the situation, right? But like the whole idea to me, from what I see in scripture most of the time, is you have God working on someone's heart, and then he'll lead them where they need to be in order to hear the gospel. Or, you know, like there's a pastor one time that talked about it this way. And he said, if you bring them into the church using carnal means, you'll need to keep them in the church using carnal means. And in other words, if they're not there for God to begin with, you know, if they're there for the free tri-tip sandwich that you're promoting on your marquee, then as soon as you take the tri-tip sandwich away, they're out the door.
Right.
You know, but I also understand the other side that says, but if they're there, if they just come for the tri-tip sandwich, and let's say maybe the Lord is working on their hearts, they hear the gospel, they get saved. Now they don't care if there's a tri-tip sandwich or not, because now they're going to stay for God. Like now they're staying for the right reasons.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is I can see the plus and the minus for both of those sides, to say, well, it just depends on what the Lord's doing.
Exactly.
Maybe the Lord's using the tri-tip sandwich to bring them. Who knows, right? I mean,
why to put God in the box like that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, but then at the same time, there's some that have gone way far over the line with it, and then done things like, oh, well, we're not gonna preach the whole truth of the Bible, because then it's going to make people not want to come here.
Yes.
Because they don't want to hear that. It's like, well, if they don't want to hear that, they shouldn't be there, because that's what this is about, right?
Exactly.
So it's just one of those kind of difficult things.
Yeah, and it's like I can get on board with you know, having a time where you invite unbelievers into the church and you make something for them. But I don't believe that the church is made for the unbeliever. It's not made to save the unbeliever. It's not the pastor's job. Right. That's our job on our off hours, not in the church doors.
Right. The church is for the believers.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
biblically.
the Bible was written for believers. It wasn't written.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right. Exactly.
And so I don't think that it's not the physical church's job to save believers. It's the physical church's job to equip the believers to go out and spread the gospel.
Sure.
But I also, you know, so, you know, I don't fault them for wanting to be able to speak unbelievers' language, you know, in the Christmas season. Sure. And then be able to say, guess what? There's something more. There's something better. There's a better gift. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that is the church's job, to go out and say, yeah, you've got that, but guess what we've got?
Right.
You know, but I think that Texas has so many mega churches. We just, everything's bigger in Texas, except for the squirrels. Apparently our squirrels are malnourished or something. But anyway.
no.
Anyways, you know, and it is, the bigger the church, the more likely you probably have people in there who just have itchy ears, you know?
Yes.
We had a situation, I have acquaintances and they are not believers at all, but go to a church and participate in the choir and participate in a number of church things. But it's social club. So they come and it's social club for them. They have friends at the church who they really like, and they really like the music program and all that kind of stuff. So, and it was in a Methodist church, and there was a lot of church split happening recently in the Methodist church. And they were involved in some of the voting and in some of the decision making, and they were lobbying for some of the decisions that were being made in the Methodist church, in their specific church. And it's like, you don't have a voice in this.
Right.
Like, this is not your place. You don't get to make those decisions for the body of Christ when you're not a part of the body of Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And, you know, they were hurt when certain decisions were made, and they were celebrating when other decisions were made. And it's like, you have no skin in this game.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
Why, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think I like our small church because of the fact that we know each individual person. And so even when something is said that hurts, right? Something is said that somebody doesn't agree with, or, you know, something is preached and they go, oh, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
There isn't like it just, well, I'm just going to leave, or I'm just going to not pay my tithes and I'm going to hold you, you know. There's an individuality to it where we can sit down and talk through things and go, okay, well, let's examine this. And I think that's more the way the church is supposed to work on a local level.
Yes.
You know, showing up once a month and being completely nameless and faceless, and feeling like you checked the box. Good job. You know.
Well, that's kind of the problem we have today, right? Is that we have a lot of churches.
Yeah.
But they're not always filled with the church, right? Yeah. Almost every congregation you can find probably has some in it that aren't actually saved, you know, and they're functioning in their own human capacity, and they're being very fleshly in what they want and don't want, and their decisions and all that kind of things. But I mean, what do you do? Well, I mean, what do you do about that? You say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not Christian enough. You need to get out of the church.
Right.
No, you just continue to preach the word and teach the truth, and they'll either get saved or they won't. Yeah,
exactly.
You know? But if they become a problem in the congregation, then that's when you need to call them out and say, hey, we don't do that here. Or that's not what we're about. You know? So you need to not. So, yeah. All right. Well, cool. We are pretty much at the end. Unless there's something specific else you want to go into.
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we went almost 4 hours.
Hey,
that's a good amount of that. So, I love all right. Well, cool. So thank you so much for giving me some of your time and sharing your heart with me. It's very awesome. So, all right. Well, we'll talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All righty. Thank you. You too.
Bye. I'm so happy that you've listened through another episode. I hope this conversation was helpful to you in some way. I greatly appreciate any and all feedback, good or bad, so please contact me at whycan'twetalkaboutthat at proton.me. If you or anyone you know would like to be a guest, or maybe has some questions for me about what it would be like to be a guest, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's a clip from the next episode.
It was weird for this because I never saw so many transitional gender moments than on Zoom, because that was an opportunity for people to put in a name.
right? Right. And even that's when the revolution of pronouns within your email signature got really popular within education, you know.
Right.
And so, but teaching was just bizarre during that time anyway, because it was like, hey, everybody, and half of them are like laying in their beds and stuff like that. So everything was bizarre during that time. So now that it's like, okay, back to normal, and we're having this revolution continue. Mm-hmm. I basically just go off of what it says on the document, right?
Okay.
And so my default is I'm just a teacher. I'm going to follow the rules of what this document says, and I don't know if, because sometimes there's like guy names that sound like girl names and girl names sound like guy names. Yeah. So I'm just going to say what it says right here.
It's Pat, right? From SNL back in the day.
And I'm going to and I don't really use honestly, like I don't even use pronouns all that much anyway.
Who does? Yeah, exactly.
Like